Welcome, everybody, to our FanDuel NBA Draft Watchalong. We are here. I'm your host today, Bryan Fonseca. We have an all-star cast that's going to enjoy this draft with you. First, right below me, that is Shantelle Chand. Did I nail the last name? Did I get the last name?
Yeah, you got that right.
Okay.
I got that right.
Doing that. Shantelle and I, we've collabed on FanDuel projects, mostly on the fight side, boxing, MMA, but you will find us here, obviously talking today. Diagonal from me, that is Ryan Hammer, one of our NBA draft gurus at FanDuel. And to my right, left, I don't know which direction I'm in, but Jon Rothstein from CBS. If you follow college basketball, you obviously know who this is. And he's also a content creator with us at FanDuel. So how is everybody doing? We are here, and it is finally draft night.
It's finally draft night, one of the most anticipated nights of the year. Obviously, this is for me like worlds colliding. You know, I was obviously used to tweeting about, key games in the Atlantic 10, Richmond's great run to the Atlantic 10 tournament title game. And now we're intersecting all that with the NBA. So excited, obviously, for a great night with you guys. And here we go.
Yeah, I'm feeling good right now. I want to know who's going to go number one already because there's been so much talk about that being switched up actually right before the draft begins as well. So I'm ready to go, and let's see. Let's just have some fun today, guys. I think there's some good fits out that we might even be able to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just pumped to you guys. I think Magic about to be on the clock if I'm seeing this correctly. But
all the madness. Pray right now that there's 5 minutes between picks. This is the whole game changer.
Yes.
Well, the Magic are definitely going to take the whole clock.
Picks, it kills everything. We need 5 minutes between picks.
Yeah.
If you are in a situation, right, where you have the first pick, they should make the first pick at 8 o'clock. Like, what do you need 5 more minutes to ruminate?
I just said this. They've had a month and a half. Yeah. They've had a month and a half to figure this out. And just now, they're like, you know what? We might just go Paulo because we saw him wearing a purple suit. So that's what we're going to do.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I remember one time, maybe I'm dating myself. I don't know. But this was like the 2006 NFL draft. And I just vividly sort of remember seeing on the ticker the Houston Texans signed Mario Williams like the day before the draft to a 6-year, $54 million deal. And I was like, oh, they made their first pick well before the draft. Why can't everybody else do that?
Right. No question.
Yeah.
No question. So yeah, I don't know what the commissioner is saying because my TV is muted. But you know what? When you're doing a live stream, sacrifices have to be made. This is life in 2022 when you're doing a live stream.
Absolutely. So for people who haven't been following along, there has been some talk about Paolo Banchero potentially being the number one overall pick. We're about to find out momentarily if that's going to be the case. But if you've been watching, at one point it was Chet Holmgren. And then it became Jabari Smith, and it stayed there. And then Paolo Banchero, just the odds have been shifting very much in his favor, which I don't know. Like, for me, I don't think there's a bad choice here.
Yeah.
And, John, I'll toss this to you first. Of the three guys, like, if you're looking at best player available, I mean, for me, it's been Jabari Smith by a little bit. But what do you see?
Guys, I think you can rationalize it a number of different ways when you're really looking at the top three, Holmgren, Smith, and Banchero. Jabari Smith to me is the most known commodity in terms of what you're getting. You're getting somebody with great size who can stretch the defense. Jabari Smith to me is a safe bet to have a Rashard Lewis type of NBA career. I think that's a safe thing. Chet Holmgren is the walk-off grand slam, but it's also the biggest risk-reward prospect in the top three. And then you have Paolo Banchero, who probably comes with the most pop, the most sizzle. He's a proven commodity. He's played the deepest in the NCAA tournament, put up big numbers for Duke, a team that went to the Final Four, shot obviously close to 50% from the field and 50 from three in the NCAA tournament. But with that said, can he be a consistent number one, or is he going to be in the NBA somebody who scores a lot of points on a bad team? So you can rationalize things as any way you want here in terms of the top three, but there is no clear-cut number one pick in the 2022 NBA draft.
Ryan, you've been all over this on Twitter as well with your breakdowns. Just what do you see from these three? And, are you in this of the same mindset that, there's sort of a little bit of a hierarchy here with the top three in particular?
Yeah, I think like them all being front court forward guys is interesting because that it makes it harder to despair and find a difference between them. If it was Ivy, Chet, and Jabari, they're three completely different players. It'd be a lot easier, but they're not. Yeah. I think the on-ball role they command is what's going to be the biggest thing in the NBA. Where like I think Paolo demands the biggest role, and Chet on offense demands the least because he has an impact on the pick and roll. He's high efficiency off ball, and he's a great defensive player. I do think Chet has the highest upside of the class. Banchero, like John said, is very NBA ready. He's polished. You know what you're getting out of him. And Jabari's kind of a little bit of the X factor in me. I get a little nervous about him. I actually think he's just as risky as Chet because of his lack of getting to the rim, his bad efficiency at the rim, bad 2-point shooting, and stuff like that. So.
And I just want to preface this by saying, as somebody who is always, especially as I get older, struggling to watch their calories, I really, really don't like Chet Holmgren. Like I was out with a friend, last night. I hadn't seen a guy I used to work with at the start of my career. Like I was apprehensive to get the Peroni at the bar, but I said, you know what? Why not mix it in, live a little bit? Like, Chet Holmgren doesn't have to watch calories. If you're somebody who struggles, this is something why I think you might root against him being the number one pick. It's not fair to have a body like that.
The Mavs are on the clock, by the way. They're all on the clock.
And Shantelle, I'm going to toss the same thing to you before the Mavs pick. How do you see this sort of top three hierarchy going? And I want to add, because we both like Jaden Ivey a lot. Do you feel like he is worthy of sneaking into this top three and potentially shifting a whole lot of draft boards differently throughout the rest of the night?
I think he definitely could sneak into it. But when I think of the three, Jabari Smith, Chet Holmgren, and Paolo Banchero, it's crazy that Jabari Smith was slated to go number one in a lot of mock drafts, and now everyone's talking about Paolo. But Jabari Smith, I mean, offensively, the guy is a stud. He handles the ball really well, and I think he fits really well with Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs. And I think the Magic also, we're talking about what's going to happen with Wendell Carter. As for Chet, like, he definitely has the most upside, but, just like John was saying, I'm kind of jealous that he can't gain weight either. Like, he's under 200 pounds. I could gain that easy, but also I kind of like that fit with him in OKC with Giddey and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. With Chet, like, that's kind of a good young three, but Paolo, to me, I think the Rockets were set on taking him. I think he's the most NBA ready, to be honest with you. But Jaden Ivey, if someone's looking for a point guard, like, he is the steal there.
Chris Haynes has tweeted out from Yahoo Sports on the NBA side, has tweeted out that the Orlando Magic are selecting Paolo Banchero with the number one overall pick. He has a typo there, but we forgive him because he's great at his job.
But that is one of the worst. That is one of the worst fears as a reporter.
Yes.
You have a story and you do not get the Twitter verbiage the best that you can get it. It is so frustrating. Like, that lives with you, maybe not for a decade, but maybe for a decade.
Yeah. So it says Paolo Banchero, but it's fine. It's Paolo Banchero, but Paolo ended up going number one, guys. And, Jabari Smith is still on the board. John, you called him Rashard Lewis. I think he could be a blend between that and Jaren Jackson Jr. a little bit defensively. Shantelle, we just talked about whether or not Jaden Ivey could creep up there. Paolo Banchero was somebody who I thought could have been the number 3 pick probably a month ago. And now he's number 1. And now, I mean, where do we go from here, guys? Because Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith, Jaden Ivey, obviously a lot of talent on the board. And Paolo Banchero, all the noise building up to him potentially being the number 1 pick, it paid off. And some people perhaps cashed out on this bet tonight.
And I think commissioner's better announce it right now to make it official. But they fooled us all, the Magic. Like, maybe they planned this all along. I saw their president of basketball operations got asked about if they worked out Paolo after he said they had to go work out with Chet and they worked out with Jabari, and he refused to answer the question, which is very odd when you're answering every other prospect question. So maybe they were trying to keep it under wraps, but Paolo goes number 1, and then they got us all. They got us all.
Already have
NBA player agent Mike Miller there going to get the number 1 pick in his first year running his firm. So, and this is the big thing you got to like right now about Paolo Banchero and Effortless Score. He is a confident guy, not just with the way he plays, but because he's wearing that suit. We haven't seen that suit really since, Heath Ledger, rest in peace, wore it in The Dark Knight circa 2012 as the Joker.
I thought it was Willy Wonka or something like that.
And I think
you have to be confident to rock that. He's got the sizzle right now. He's the number 1 pick in the draft. And again, this is the guy that we knew, guys, that could come in and be a big offensive, impactful player right now in an NBA game.
Yeah, and I think Paolo Banchero, you mentioned Mike Miller, John. I think Mike Miller also represents RJ Hampton, who's on that team. The Oklahoma City Thunder, according to Chris Haynes, again, are picking Jabari Smith with the number 2 pick, but then Woj tweets out that Chet Holmgren remains the front runner for Oklahoma City at number 2. So
All right.
We have conflicting reports right now.
There we go.
Wow.
For the first time. And now we may actually have to wait for the broadcast.
That's good.
To
That's what we
confirm this. So
need.
this is great. This is great right here. Chris Haynes is like, yo, Jabari Smith Jr. is going to be the second pick. And then Woj says Chet Holmgren is the front runner for Oklahoma City. Couched it a little bit. But in the comments, FanDuel mentions we have chaos.
I don't think
it took 10 minutes.
I don't think the Rockets are going to trade the pick. I think they're going to take whatever the 3 are left. But like, if they had their eyes set on Paolo because of all this commotion, right? If it comes to 3, are they calling teams and like, you know what? We want Paolo. We're not getting him. Who wants Jabari or Chet, even whoever it's going to be? I don't think they're going to do that because they need the best player available, but maybe they think about it.
I think it's a win-win for Houston if you think about it, right? You either get Chet or Jabari because at the time, like Paolo was slipping down to 3, so I think this is awesome. Also, it was plus 550 on FanDuel for Paolo Banchero to go number 1 overall. Which, if you took that, I mean, you're probably having a good night.
Another thing too, and again, this is a totally different tangent. We'll get there eventually, but I've remained steadfast on this for a couple of days right now. We can obviously highlight these 3, but I'm still in the belief because of the spacing that exists in the NBA, because of the fact that we're not going to see as many lumbering big men in the NBA, I still think down the road that the best player in this NBA draft may not be one of the big 3. It may be Jaden Ivey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could totally see that. And the big thing is like, where do these guys end up? Environment matters, fit matters, and all those different things. I think for anybody, but particularly for most of the guys that are being drafted, that's going to play a significant role. Paolo Banchero's going to an Orlando situation where they're rebuilding, but there's also at least some pressure to like at least take a big step because they've been rebuilding for so long and last made the playoffs a few years ago, but it was just sort of like a one and done type of thing. And then Houston has gone down straight to the bottom. And they need just the best guys available, period. And then Oklahoma City, how long are they going to not tank, but how long are they going to rebuild and accumulate all these draft picks? Yeah. And then with Sacramento, they're caught in the in-between. We're going to get to them soon. They're caught in this in-between phase where they made a quote-unquote win-now trade with Domas Sabonis. And it's like, are they going to try to win now, or are they going to actually use number 4 and get the best player available? So as we wait, we'll see what happens. Go ahead, Ryan.
No, I'll say that's where it gets tricky with Ivy. Like John mentioned, he could be the best in the class, but situation and role is so important. If he's with Davion and De'Aaron Fox, like, is he going to be limited in year 1 and down the road? Or if he slips to the Pistons, which seems like a dream fit, it could be. But I also saw that OKC's pick is in. So, I mean, I'm finding out right now, by the way. I don't know about you guys. I saw conflicting reports. So maybe this is actually fun for us, like to find out on TV.
Yes.
No, this is incredible right now. The NBA draft has gone back to being 1996.
I do miss that.
When John Wallace fell to the Knicks.
Yeah.
Again, this is all before your time, guys. I never thought I would be the old man in the group, but I am.
I really hope that Sacramento doesn't pick Jaden Ivey just because they already got Davion Mitchell, and we kind of saw what happened with De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton. Like, I don't want that situation for Jaden Ivey because he is such a talent. So I don't know if that would be the best fit for him, but they would be drafting the best player in the draft right now for sure.
And people watching, we're going to be hanging out for probably the whole first round, at least most of it, probably even into the second round. We don't know, but make sure you drop comments and things. We'll get to them throughout the course of the show. Comments for anybody up here. And obviously, your college basketball questions, your scouting reports, we can direct those to John. Yeah. And we'll get to that. So make sure you leave that, everybody watching. But
now,
so
if I can add some guys here, just because we're tying all worlds together. So Mark Daigneault, the head coach of Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mark Daigneault. So this goes, again, I'm dating myself right here, but I go as this far back with Mark Daigneault. Daigneault or Daigneault? Daigneault, right?
I think it's Daigneault, but
I've said Dagan.
It was in my phone as Mark D.
We could go with Mark D. That's good.
Mark D. So Mark, this goes to show you. This goes to show you how far back, I go. I knew him when he was in an administrative position on Billy Donovan's staff at Florida. He wasn't even an assistant coach. And Billy Donovan had a clinic. I spoke at it one year with Larry Shyatt, who was his assistant when they won the national championships in Gainesville. And Shaka Smart, who I knew, connected with Mark, and he's like, yeah, you should connect with Jon. So we used to talk on the phone just about like their team, the SEC, and now he's just the head coach of the team that picked second in the NBA draft. So yeah, life goes at you fast.
And he just selected Chet Holmgren. We just learned we officially have the second overall pick in the draft. All the report, Woj, Shams, Chris Haynes, and the NBA just announced it. So Chet Holmgren is number 2. That means Jabari Smith, who was the favorite to go number 1, has slid to number 3. And if I've been saying that teams should be looking to trade up to number 4, the New York Knicks in particular.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm frantically on the phone trying to do whatever I can to get number 3 from Houston. But if I'm Houston, I'm absolutely holding on to this pick. Yes, Ryan.
Yes, especially if they're panicking. Like you said, I don't know if they are. I think in their minds, they're like, we did not get who we wanted, even the second guy we wanted. But it's okay because there's 3 of the best guys, and we're going to take Jabari. It's going to be fine. And he fits because he fits into any team. He's basically a 6'10" shooting guard with upside athleticism. And I think they're going to be fine. But like you said, I think it's easier to sway a team like the Rockets, who didn't expect to be in this situation, if you give them a really enticing package.
I mean, and I don't expect them to take Jaden Ivey. That's a fun what if, but they have Jalen Green already. But Shantelle, Jabari Smith, the potential of Jabari Smith and Jalen Green. I feel like if you're Houston, maybe you don't win a lot of games this year regardless. But man, that's promising to have as your foundation, no?
Yeah, and when you think about Jabari Smith, he's a pretty good ball handler as well. That's a duo together that you can put that you're thinking about the future. So Jabari Smith and Jalen Green together, I mean, they could be pretty nasty. So I'm actually not even mad at him going there. Jabari Smith, you can literally, like Ryan said, fit him anywhere on any team because he's that dynamic of a player. So it's actually a good pick for Houston, despite the fact that they didn't end up with Banchero.
I want to get to CC's comments soon after this 3rd pick, because we should talk about the Pistons because they're coming up on the board too. There's a lot of teams with a lot of hope this time of the year. But Jon, just your evaluation, what from what you've seen, Jabari Smith is a number 3 pick now.
Well,
and
first off,
what do you make of all this?
First off, I just want to add this. I want to say this. You love Chet Holmgren's game if you're a basketball fan, but you're jealous of his metabolism if you have to do Insanity Max 30 to earn 2 cheat meals when you're over 35. Let's just get that out of the table right now. Now, we're talking about Chet now, or you want to talk about Jabari?
Whoever. But I because Chet just went, and that's an interesting fit with Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I mean, I think we start with Chet, and again, we're going to try and dumb this down. Obviously, we're in a draft; we want to make things tight and concise.
Yeah.
Kristaps Porzingis on offense, Evan Mobley on defense, still good enough to be in obviously pick and roll dive scenarios on offense. Somebody who's a freak, guys, because how often do we see somebody who can make threes between 35 and 40% on offense, and then also be somebody who can block 4 shots a game and alter maybe 6 or 7. So it's all going to come down is, can his body absorb and handle the physicality that we're going to see at the NBA level? But nobody is really like him. And this is one thing I want to bring up. I mentioned the offense in the half court like Porzingis, the defense like Evan Mobley. The unique thing about Chet Holmgren is he can get a defensive rebound and go coast to coast and start and initiate offense. Transitioning, you guys were talking about Jabari Smith. One of my good friends I met in TV, Ryan Hollins, is now the color analyst for the Houston Rockets. And if you get Jabari Smith and Jalen Green, you may be back in the lottery next year, but you're going to have an entertaining team to watch going 25 and 57.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what's going to happen. But Jabari Smith, I mean, and now this is where the fun really starts, because this is where there were talks potentially about somebody sneaking into the top 3 or maybe somebody trading out. But really what we've all been looking at is number 4, and the draft has started. So it's not going to be one of those things where we say, oh, the draft begins when, but no, the draft started with Paolo Banchero with number 1 because that was a surprise. Yeah. But at number 4, the Sacramento Kings and their trade possibilities, is somebody going to try to snag that pick for them? They've been reportedly fielding a lot of offers from teams like the Knicks, the Pacers, who they did a big deal with last year, not the Portland Trailblazers, but there have been some other teams, maybe Portland, who have been inquiring about that number 4 overall pick to get Jaden Ivey. And I want to see what happens there first and foremost at this point.
They just showed Jabari, by the way, if you weren't even looking at Twitter, they showed him on the phone when the Rockets are still on the clock, like, and he's smiling, like, okay, that's obviously the phone call he's getting. He's getting drafted. Like, they're not even trying on TV anymore. Like, it's a shame, but it's okay.
Yeah, and the reports are that Jabari Smith is going, and from Woj, from Chris Haynes, from Ryan Hammer, who just made an astute observation on TV.
What do you
like,
say?
We have Jabari Smith. That's fun. Jabari Smith and Jalen Green is going to be fun. I did not like what I saw from the Rockets last year at various points for obvious reasons, but that's going to be something I'm going to watch because Jalen Green, I thought he sort of turned a corner a little bit for a rookie at the end of the year and really showed some things in those last couple months. And Jabari Smith, I thought, was the safest number 1 overall pick of the draft, who is now going number 3. So who knows?
Yeah, we did not have – this was not a Tim Duncan 1997 draft or something like that. There were many different areas of gray. And, guys, what I'm curious about right now is we knew in some way, shape, or form we were going to see, obviously, the top 3 picks go in succession. Now the draft is going to start. And looking at my big board, I see a big drop-off after we get to 6 or 7 in terms of talent. So now these next 3, 4, 5 picks are going to be really interesting in terms of guys who can really make an impact at the NBA level. I think you'll get role players and things like that beyond, but we'll see what happens in terms of what guys can make an impact and have star quality at the NBA level.
Yeah, I mean, role players win titles too. You know what I mean? Like, you need depth. I don't. To me, it's not always just about stars, and we might get some damn good ones going forward. Benedict Mathurin is somebody who I am looking at. Like, he's one of my favorites in this draft class. I think he could be good. A lot of people love Keegan Murray, and he's somebody who's been rising up some draft boards. And now we're just waiting for now the pick is official. Jabari Smith is number 3. So now the fun begins. And Shantelle, I'm going to toss this to you. You are a Knicks fan. You want the Knicks to trade for this pick. I think that they should trade for this pick. Everything is available except RJ Barrett and Obi Toppin, because ideally you would pair Jaden Ivey up with those guys. Emmanuel quickly can go if you're going to get Jaden Ivey. What would you be offering? What would be your best Godfather offer, Shantelle, for this number 4 overall pick?
Listen, as a Knicks fan, I want Jaden Ivey, so I'm throwing everything at them. I'm like, how many picks do you guys want? I'll throw in Julius Randle as well. Take him. You know what I'm saying? And Emmanuel quickly, want him too? You want Emmanuel quickly? I could throw in Emmanuel quickly for Jaden Ivey, because Jaden Ivey is definitely the best player in this draft right now, and he's available. If I'm the Knicks, I want him because I want to pair him up with RJ Barrett. Yeah. Because as much as RJ Barrett's Canadian too, so obviously I'm going to root for him. But what I'm trying to say is there's one thing about RJ Barrett that I think he needs to get better at, and that's just being consistent. And I think pairing him up with a guy like Jaden Ivey takes the pressure off him a bit. But I do think that they should definitely try to package Julius Randle if they can.
Yeah, I mean, look, RJ Barrett, Jaden Ivey, Obi Toppin, and Madison Square Garden. I mean, that would be so much fun to watch. So I hope that that's something that we could see, but it doesn't look like they're trading up for the pick. Because
I just saw that. I was like, oh my God, what's happening?
Shams is reporting that Keegan Murray is going number 4 to the Kings, which also means Jaden Ivey is still on the board.
Wow.
At number 5.
Oh my God, the Pistons.
And we were CC's comment. Let's go to CC's comment now, because now's the time. CC's comment, Andrew. Who's the best fit for Detroit? And who's the best fit for Detroit? I mean, it's Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham together at this point, isn't it? Well, but if you're Detroit, you have to stay with this pick. John, what do you think?
I mean, Jaden Ivey, he got better as a shooter, but I don't think he shoots it well enough to be a bona fide NBA 2 guard. This is a perplexing situation right now. We've been thrown for a loop. It's like the first time you see The Usual Suspects and you can't figure out the end with Kevin Spacey.
Do they go for Ben Mathurin?
I think if you're looking for your prototypical 2 guard, you have obviously a scenario where you're going to be in a situation, where I think you have a chip to play with. They could trade this pick for the team that obviously wants to get Ivy. That's a big thing. If you're a team like New York or another team that wants him, I think that's something you can look at.
I think the Pistons
you can
roster
get a lot back too. Yeah, go ahead. Ryan.
That's a good point though, because he keeps falling. Teams are like, they'll be even more ambitious knowing he's at 5, and if the Pistons are going to field any trade offers. But when you look at the roster, like they have a glaring hole at the 2 guard right now. It's Killian Hayes, but I think he actually is going to be a good second unit guy. If you run Cade and Ivy with Sadiq Bey, and you try to hit Miles Bridges in free agency or DeAndre Ayton, which they're very, very heavily rumored to consider, like that's a team that could be a dark horse playing team and will be a playoff team within 2 years for sure. Like I'll put my stamp on that. And Cade and Ivy couldn't be better fit. I already have a picture of them. Stay at one of them Photoshops. I'm going to tweet it out. It's going to be electric. Like that is a team that's going to be so much fun to watch. Like in Detroit, I would say they deserve that at this point. So
the other thing to watch with the Pistons while we're staying on them is there have been reported interest between them and potentially getting in the game for DeAndre Ayton, center for the Phoenix Suns, who may be on the move. So if you have Cade Cunningham, you have Jaden Ivey, and you have DeAndre Ayton, I think you can compete for a play-in if you're healthy, and, it depends on how other things go in the East, but you're talking about competing for a 10 seed. It shouldn't be that difficult, but I think that that's something you could potentially do there.
Guys, just to add some more context, Keegan Murray was a 3-star recruit out of high school. He was just selected 4th in the 2022 NBA draft. So I just want to give a shout out to the Iowa basketball program for that incredible evaluation, because this is incredible. And remember, this is somebody who, as a freshman, just averaged just over, 7 points a game. Luka Garza was on the team. Joe Wieskamp was on the team. So this to me is just an incredible, incredible evaluation by Fran McCaffrey in that program.
Yeah, I love those stories. Guys that are like Kawhi Leonard was, not a heralded high school recruit. Jimmy Butler was not a heralded high school recruit. And these guys are like 2-3 stars if they have any stars at all, and they can develop into first round picks, sometimes lottery picks, and in Keegan Murray's case, a top 4 pick. So that's great. So right now we're waiting for the number 5 overall pick. Go ahead, Ryan. I'll jump in here.
I think people also are going to forget that Keegan, the Kings want to win now. They were trying to trade out of this pick for a vet.
Yeah.
Then I talked about this right before the draft. Them taking Keegan is showing me that they're not done yet. They're going to keep pursuing John Collins. They're going to keep pursuing guys in free agency and stuff like that, OG Anunoby, whoever it might be, because they want to be a playoff team. And Ivy long-term makes more sense. I'm 100% on that train, but it's so easy to slot Keegan into their current roster. Go ahead.
Adrian Wojnarowski is reporting that Jaden Ivey is going to be the number 5 overall pick to the Detroit Pistons. So we do not have a trade. Steal. No one traded up for Jaden Ivey. There hasn't been one trade yet during the draft, actually. And it should be noted, the Detroit Pistons, they did get some draft compensation for Jeremy Grant, who went out to the Portland Trailblazers, who were actually about to pick at number 7. That's a pick that they were trying to trade.
So at this point, the only thing that we know for sure is that the Knicks are going to be disappointed.
You never know.
We'll see.
That's the only guarantee, unless Ben Mathurin falls to the Knicks.
Yeah, I think what happens at 9 is going to, what the Spurs do at 9 dictates everything else in the end of the lottery, because if they take Duren, they take a center, then it opens up the space for teams like the Knicks and the Cavs and the Hornets. But if they don't take Duren, then teams like the Knicks and the Thunder start considering Duren at that point, and then everything gets thrown out the window. So I think at that point, 9 is going to change everything, because we kind of know, like Sharp, Ivy, Mathurin are all going to go in the next few picks. We know that, and Dyson and stuff like that. So
yeah, and to me, the Pistons with Jaden Ivey, with Cade Cunningham, and potentially with DeAndre Ayton, that's a play-in contender. So, Shantelle, let's toss this to you, because now, we haven't seen any trades yet, but it's been a very interesting draft, and I think a lot of mock drafts are already wrong, because Paolo Banchero went number 1, and then Keegan Murray went number 4, and now Jaden Ivey is a Detroit Piston and is going to suit up with Cade Cunningham. So where are you at 5 picks in?
Man, you know what? This draft is nothing like the mock draft that I made heading into this, but I still think there's some good guys still on the board, like some sleeper picks. I know Dyson Daniels isn't the best offensive guy, but he's a good defender, and I'm interested in seeing where he definitely goes. A good facilitator as well. He's not the best shooter, as I mentioned, but he's someone I'm keeping my eye on. I also really like Johnny Davis out of Wisconsin. People forget that he can score the basketball, and he's one of the guys that I'm hoping that the Knicks actually look at in this draft. I know that ankle injury slowed him down in the year, but he has good size. And I think he's going to be one of those picks, like a role player type of guy that can really, put in work this season and hopefully get a starting role somewhere.
John, you want to jump in here on that?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the one thing, about Johnny Davis, you make great points about his intangibles, is he going to be a consistent enough shooter at the NBA level to, stick? But I think you're right. I think this is somebody who could come in as is without being the consistent shooter and have a Josh Hart caliber impact at the NBA level. So it's somebody who you can add to your rotation, somebody who can really, obviously defend the other team's perimeter players. But the question is he going to be able to recalibrate that shot? But that's what I think is going to happen here, guys. I think once we get Ben Mathurin off the board, you're going to see players who are going to be role players and potential very good role players. Yeah. But I think we're seeing the star power right now come off the board when we get into the 6, 7, 8 range.
Yeah, and we know just because NBA draft history, there's always stars that you don't see coming that are picked like back lottery, mid first round, late first round. It happened a few years ago with Donovan Mitchell and Bam Adebayo going back to back. Jordan Poole, who was instrumental on the Golden State Warriors, who just won a championship, was a late first a couple of years ago. And we talked about some other guys earlier, Kawhi Leonard, Jimmy Butler, etc. So, and even Giannis Antetokounmpo was a mid-first round pick. So who knows? I don't think there's a Giannis in this draft, but there's a lot of look. Ben Mathurin is one. Dyson Daniels, as Shantelle mentioned, Shaedon Sharpe. We don't know where he's going to go, and he's like the biggest mystery, just sort of hovering over the draft. I'm fascinated to see where he goes because I think he's a guy that could potentially slip. AJ Griffin should be coming up here soon. Johnny Davis, as we mentioned, and Jeremy Sohan is somebody who I think could be a top 10 pick potentially. And, there are a lot of interesting names here. And even beyond that, there are just so many. So right now we're waiting. Number 6 overall pick. The Indiana Pacers would technically be on the clock. Well, although I don't think the broadcast is actually moving that fast because they're still on the Detroit Pistons with the pick is in. But but still the Indiana Pacers are on clock. And Portland at number 7. So let's get into them a little bit because they acquired Jeremy Grant yesterday. They still have this number 7 overall pick. There was rumors about them potentially moving this for OG Anunoby to the Toronto Raptors. Don't know why the Raptors would necessarily do that, but there was some smoke about that. And they still have Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons. They have Jeremy Grant. I still think they should probably trade this pick. But if they were to keep it, let's throw this to Ryan. If they were to keep it, what direction do you think they should go? Because they kind of need to, they kind of have to be good if Damian Lillard's still there in his peak and wants to win.
Yep. I will say I want to shout out Jaden Ivey and his family. He is crying right now. He said he wanted to be in Indiana or Detroit. He was pretty public about that. His family's from Indiana. His mom played for the Fever, but he said he loved Detroit. He feels home there, which I will say is awesome to see like emotional times like this.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that. But the Blazers, if Mathurin's there, 100% has to be him. Like with the Grant trade, they have to contend. They have to do everything they can to contend. I like trading the pick for like OG Anunoby or John Collins if they can get that. But at the pick, say Mathurin's gone too. I know Dame loves Sharpe. I'm not one who loves Sharpe as much, but obviously Damian Lillard knows more than I do. I will say that. I think Dyson Daniels is the fit though. Dyson, like the Blazers defense has been really bad. Someone to play next to Dame to be a secondary playmaker if they need to and have him be a little off ball at times. He has all NBA defense upside. Like he's a really, really good scorer inside because of his length. And I think playing in the G League helped him play against NBA level athletes in competition. That would be my pick. Or if they want to go big, I don't hate Jalen Duren either. I really, really don't. I think his floor is higher than people think. And Nurkic's just never healthy and not a good defensive player at all. So
yeah.
And we don't know if they're going to re-sign him because he's headed for free agency, unrestricted free agency too. So maybe he can get an extension here. But Ben Mathurin is interesting because he was one of my during the tournament. He became somebody who I thought was kind of a household name from a March Madness standpoint. But I saw an NBA skill set there. And John, you alluded to him potentially being a star. I mean, Ben Mathurin, what could he add to an NBA roster?
I mean, you guys, this is somebody who I think could be a volcano at the NBA level because he can erupt at any time. 6'6", great size for a wing. Obviously, to me, he projects as an NBA starter at the next level. Really good in catch and shoot situations. He had 8 games last season with 25 or more points. I mean, this is somebody I think that can come into the NBA and have a Terrence Ross caliber career and be a consistent offensive threat on the wing. Unafraid to take big shots, as evidenced by the 3 he made against TCU in the round of 32 when Arizona was in trouble of being knocked out early. I think that this is an absolute gem of a pick for the Indiana Pacers at number 6. I mean, Ben Mathurin is somebody who can be a productive NBA player and a starter for a long time.
And according to Adrian Wojnarowski, the Pacers are taking Ben Mathurin at number 6. Nice. He says the Pacers are locked in on Arizona's Ben Mathurin with the number 6 overall pick. That is interesting. Tyrese Halliburton, Ben Mathurin. I mean, they're trying to trade Miles Turner, trying to trade Malcolm Brogdon. Don't know how Buddy Hield fits into their plans, but I actually think he can stay because I think Ben Mathurin and Tyrese Halliburton will benefit from having a shooter there. But this is an interesting fit, and I like Ben Mathurin a lot. Shantelle, I'm toss this to you. For Indiana, how do you see this working out? Because they have an interesting combination of players, and they're not done because they do want to move Miles Turner and or Malcolm Brogdon at some point. Malcolm Brogdon, especially according to reports.
Well, first, let's give a shout out to the first Canadian taken in the draft in the top 10 too. So got to give a shout out to Ben Mathurin there from Montreal. And, this guy does everything. He's extremely explosive. When you pair him up with a guy like Tyrese Halliburton, who is just an amazing facilitator, he makes everyone better around him. Those two together, I actually think Buddy Hield is a trade piece. Because Buddy Hield is one of those guys that you can definitely move onto a team, but I don't mind the three of them either. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Miles Turner because I actually think he fits well on this team with these guys. But Ben Mathurin, I think dropping to number 6, I thought he'd go number 5, to be honest with you guys. This is, I think, a steal for the Pacers, to be quite honest with you.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but in an effort to pay homage to our late great commissioner, David Stern, we may have a trade. According to, it looks like Bleacher Report, the Knicks are still in pursuit of acquiring Jaden Ivey.
Really?
Nice.
I'm just reading this off Bleacher Report.
All right. I mean, I don't think they're going to get him, but we'll see. I mean, look.
Again, before I met my wife, all things considered, I was heavily in pursuit of Minka Kelly. It didn't work out.
I hear you. We've all had
That's a good one, John.
we've all had our our aspirations there. Let's get to Bobert Wales's comment here, Andrew. We have, where do you think Brogdon will get traded to? And now that they have Ben Mathurin, and as Shantelle just discussed, I agree. I think that Miles Turner fits on this team. I don't know if he's going to stay there, but I think he makes sense. I think Buddy Hield is potentially a trade chip. But where do we think Malcolm Brogdon goes? I'll tell you what. All the Knicks fans I know don't want him. They're scared that they're going to trade for Malcolm Brogdon, and all the Knicks fans I know do not want that. I think Malcolm Brogdon's good, but I do think he gets hurt quite a lot and famously had very bad medicals coming out of the University of Virginia in the 2016 NBA draft. But I think he could be a good player nonetheless. I have no idea where he goes. A team like Philadelphia, I think, could be in the market for somebody like him. We mentioned Portland. I do think he can play off of Damian Lillard. I'm not sure what Portland needs to do to make that happen. I don't think that's an awesome fit, but I think that that's, something that can happen. But I do like Malcolm Brogdon. He's a good player. He's an efficient player. He's tough. He has leadership qualities, can play make a little bit, can shoot. You have concerns with the injuries, but honestly, you have concerns with injuries with everybody. So, Ryan, let me toss it to you. In terms of Malcolm Brogdon, now that Indiana made the Ben Mathurin pick, and he's one of the guys that could potentially be shipped out, what do you see here in terms of a potential fit for Brogdon?
I think the Knicks and the Wizards were the teams at the top with their picks. The Pacers were after another lottery pick, which, as they should try to get that. I think someone who has not been talked about with Brogdon at all, and I guess it's not going to happen, is the Miami Heat, who Kyle Lowry really wasn't cutting it this year. 100%. They can definitely improve their vet guard play with Brogdon. And yes, the injury history isn't great, but it's definitely a tier up from Kyle Lowry, and next to who they have already in their team with Jimmy Butler, Bam. I think that's a guy that they should go for because they have picked 27 to use in a couple assets in their team, like Duncan Robinson, Max Strus, if they really wanted to. That's one I like, but I get why. The Sixers I don't hate, but they might be overflowing the guard room. But other than that, like, the Knicks do make sense. If the Knicks want to be decent and try to make the play-in and playoffs, like, they have to make a move like that. They're not going to be able to get into the playoffs with the young team that they have right now without a vet guard like that next to Julius Randle and RJ if they were to keep everybody on the team.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I've said this for a couple of days right now. If you get Jaden Ivey and you put the ball in his hands, which would not necessarily happen 100% if he goes to Detroit, you then are looking at being in a situation where you can have in this draft what Donovan Mitchell was a couple of years ago for the Utah Jazz. It could be a franchise-changing draft pick. And look, again, I'm going to preface this again. I am not an NBA guy 365 days a year, but I do obviously talk to a number of people in the NBA. And one of my good friends from college is the voice of the Knicks, Ed Cohen, does a great job. So I hear from him, obviously, how the team's doing. And this is a fact. No franchise in the NBA has to do a better job moving forward in the draft than the Knicks, because we have seen through free agency that they are not going to land marquee free agents. This franchise has swung and missed, okay, on the NBA draft multiple times. I know in my lifetime, especially in the last 5 years, the only way they're going to be able to get franchise players is through the draft.
It's a good point. When we've seen that, like, they've gotten some steals. I think Emmanuel quickly is a franchise player too, and like he is worth keeping on your franchise for years to come. But that's a good point that they have struggled to get guys. Like, they were rumored to get Zion and then KD and Kyrie in free agency, and like those things don't happen. So
yeah, like I remember, talking to somebody who was very close to the Knicks, and I forgot what year that was, probably 2019, and the team was terrible. And they said, well, we're going to get Durant and Kyrie Irving through free agency, and then we're going to win the lottery, and we're going to get Zion Williamson. And my response was, you actually go to bed at night thinking that's going to happen? Aerosmith wrote a song about that. It was called Dream On.
Just a great song. Just a complete sidebar. You mentioned Ed Cohen. I was a production assistant at the U.S. Open 6 years ago, and one of the guys I had to actually type up the notes for was Ed Cohen. So shout out to Ed. This was a while ago, fresh out of college. So
yeah, Ed's a great guy.
Yeah. So we have more news, and this is from Chris Haynes and Adrian Wojnarowski. Both of them are reporting this, that the Blazers are keeping number 7 as of right now. They are picking Shaedon Sharpe. Another Canadian, Shantelle.
Yeah.
And this was one of the big mysteries, because he was going to play at Kentucky, then he wasn't, then he was, and he didn't. And a lot of people haven't seen him play in a while. I heard this on Ryan Russillo's podcast, where he mentioned that a lot of the film you look up is kind of from like a year or two ago. And so he's become a big mystery, but he's super talented. He is probably the definition of a boomer bust guy in this draft. Shantelle, let's toss this to you, because you just talked about how Portland really likes Shaedon Sharpe. Damian Lillard at least does as well. And he's going to go there as of right now. And it's going to be Damian Lillard, Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons. So a lot of shot creation there. And you have Jeremy Grant as of right now.
Yeah, you know what? Shaedon Sharpe, I know we haven't seen him play for a little while. When you look at his footage, like, he's extremely explosive. He's a good shot maker, and he does have that scoring ability, which Portland has, which is kind of interesting for them to go with this pick, because I actually thought Jeremy Shohan was a better pick for them, because he can guard 1 through 5. And their biggest Achilles heel is their defense, but they want to be explosive offensively. And I think this is one of those picks that it is either a good pick or it's a bust. And I think Portland's willing to take that. They kind of want to pair Damian Lillard up with some talent. And I'm not mad at this pick at all, actually. They didn't go defense, and maybe they'll kind of look to that in the offseason.
Yeah.
You nailed it when you said it's either going to be, obviously, a home run, or it's going to be a bust. I just don't know how you can put your franchise's hopes on a chip like a lottery pick at number 7 for somebody who has not played against top flight competition. So what's the evaluation?
Yeah.
You know what it reminds me of?
You have to be really convinced. Go ahead, Shantelle.
It reminds me of when Denver picked Michael Porter Jr. And we know how much he sat out. He was injured. Like, as a Knicks fan, I was like, they got to grab him. They got to grab him. And like, MPJ has turned out to be a good player when he's healthy. And this is what it kind of reminds me of.
That's interesting. I mean, Portland, their defense was a question mark when they had Damian Lillard and even CJ McCollum. And a lot of people say, hey, they didn't win much, but I think their roster construction failed them more than anything else. I don't think it was the 2 guards. So, and Maestro adds here in the comment section, do you think healthy Damian Lillard can take this Blazers team to the Western Conference Finals again? I'll say this, that's a big ask in the Western Conference right now. Because of, we just saw what Golden State did. We know Phoenix, they're at least going to be good again next year. Denver Nuggets, Shantelle just alluded to this with MPJ. They're waiting on Jamal Murray as well. They're going to be healthy in theory and should be competitive. The Clippers should get Kawhi Leonard back. And a team that's going to pick right now at number 8, the New Orleans Pelicans. I really like this team a lot. I'm very excited for the small ball lineup we're going to get of Jose Alvarado. I'm Puerto Rican, so you know I'm all about Jose Alvarado. You have Jose Alvarado, you have CJ McCollum, you have Brandon Ingram, you have Herb Jones, and you have Zion Williamson as a small ball 5. I think that can close games. You still have Jonas Valanciunas there, and this 8th overall pick, I think, could be potentially somebody really good who can fit that mold.
Guys, I want to add some. Frank Isola, whose show I was on earlier today on SiriusXM, and it was a longtime beat writer for the Knicks for the New York Daily News, just tweeted that the Knicks are still not giving up on Jaden Ivey. May be difficult to pull off, but it ain't over yet. So
he really? Isola's always doing that to the.
I saw the same thing about the Wizards the other day. They said like they had checked in with the Thunder on SGA. I didn't say they were inquiring about a trade. It said they had checked in. I was like, I check in about buying a Tesla, but I can't afford it. So like it's not going to happen. So it doesn't kind of really matter.
To your point, John, Ian Begley, who covers both New York basketball teams, Knicks and Nets for SNY, and formerly had a long run at ESPN. Opposing teams say the New York Knicks remain active in trying to make a trade to obtain Jaden Ivey, who was drafted by Detroit. If I'm Detroit, I'm asking for a lot because that's not. He fell to me at 5, and I'm just gonna give him up for picks and quickly, and maybe top in If I'm Detroit, I'm keeping Ivy because Ivy, Cunningham, and potentially DeAndre could be very interesting. Speaking of the Knicks, let's actually get to another comment here. Mario had something here on the Knicks. Who do you think the Knicks will take at 11 if they don't make a move? And I know that's not what Knicks fans want to hear. Evidently, they're still trying to get Jaden Ivey, so they want to make a move. I still think there's a chance they move up. I'm not sure to where. 8 would actually make sense. It would make sense for New Orleans to trade back, but
Dyson, oof.
Shantelle, what do you think? If the Knicks stay at 11 or if the Knicks trade up, just ultimately, what do you want to see here?
Well, I just want to say Shams just tweeted out that New Orleans will select Dyson Daniels, which is kind of interesting because he kind of reminds me of Lonzo Ball a bit, like good perimeter defender, not the best shooter. And you talked about Jose Alvarado. We know what he can do. I think that's a good pick for New Orleans.
Yeah.
As for the Knicks, I liked Dyson Daniels for the Knicks. I know he wasn't the best shooter, but they need a point guard. They need someone that can facilitate the ball. That's the most important thing for the Knicks. And I know he's going to slip in the draft, but one of my favorite players in this draft is Ty Washington. I think this guy is the biggest sleeper in the draft, right? He's a former 5-star recruit. I really think he plays on and off the ball really well. And at Kentucky, I think he mostly played shooting guard, but he has the capability of playing point guard. He's a playmaker, man, a facilitator. So Ty Washington, I think, is the biggest sleeper in the draft, to be quite honest with you. And I don't think the Knicks are going to slide that low, but he's an option, man. I think this kid's going to be a stud.
Something else
closer to New York, you can feel the tension.
Yeah, and there's something else to know. I don't want to be New York bias here, even though I'm in New York. But
do it.
Jake Fisher. I mean, these are reports, so we gotta note them. Jake Fisher from Bleacher Report says sources. Knicks are still in pursuit of acquiring Jaden Ivey. Sources said even after Detroit selected him. Mark Stein quote tweeted that and said, and this is just 2 minutes ago, those hopes could hinge on whether Jalen Duren is still on the board at number 11. That is interesting because Mitchell Robinson is going to be a free agent. We don't know what's going to happen there. Ryan, you look like you want to jump in here. I mean, Jalen Duren, if he's on the board for the Knicks.
This is what we talked about. And the Spurs dictate the rest of basically until 20, until they pick again, because if they take Duren, the Knicks go as planned, where they look at guys like maybe it's Sohan or AJ Griffin or Malachi Branham, even Ty. But if Duren is still on the board, then things are going to get shaken up. And maybe that's the point where they're like, we're going to stop trying to trade and we're going to pick at 11 because we didn't expect Duren to be here. And we're going to call it a day. And we don't need to sign Mitch.
Well, guys, this is what I can tell you. And this is just from what I think it's been out there already too. But it was reported, and I've heard that the Detroit Pistons have interest in Jalen Duren from Memphis.
Oh.
So again, we're just reading tea leaves here, but that's what we do. That's what we do on a live chat. If the pick for the Knicks at 11 is Jalen Duren, that could mean that a trade could be coming together right now. And again, I'm just rooting for my fellow, Manhattanites to finally have a team that could be exciting.
And then Ayton, they wouldn't go for Ayton either, the Pistons, and they'd be flip-flop within like 10 minutes. So
that would be the Knicks could go for Ayton then if they want to. That would be very interesting. That would be very interesting if you get like an Ivy Duren plus whatever else swap if that were to happen. So we'll keep tabs on that.
Well, the Knicks have to give up. Well, let's think about this for a second.
They'll have to give up more quickly,
but you guys know this better than I do. If do the Knicks have a 2-guard not named RJ Barrett that they could put in a deal so that the Pistons would still be getting a wing as well?
It's quickly for sure.
It's quickly, yeah. It's Emmanuel Quickly, who is not as good as Jaden Ivey, who's
But do you give all that up? Like, do you give up? I honestly, like, I wouldn't give up Duren, Quickly, and another pick or Obi or something. I wouldn't, like, Ivy's amazing, and I understand, Brian, I know you're a big supporter of it, but like, that's a core that like I actually think is very solid and it's very balanced.
Yeah, but it's not a core. It's not a core that will take you to the postseason, though, right?
Neither
like if you, well, he's a prospect that's the best player in this draft, though. And for the Knicks, who haven't gotten the number 1 pick since like Patrick Ewing, this could be a way to get the best player in the draft. So I would package that off.
I'm still high on RJ Barrett. I was very high on him coming into the draft, and I think people were very hard on him. I think the biggest issue is that the Knicks didn't let him run the offense until halfway through year 3, and then you saw what he could do, and he was allowed to make mistakes, but he actually had some big scoring nights and was able to guard some of the best players on the floor as well. I think that in addition to that, if you're adding a Jalen Duren and then trying to flip it for Jaden Ivey and you're adding it quickly, for me, it comes down to this.
Vincent Goodwill, this NBA Twitter right now. They need to have NBA Twitter anonymous moving forward for people who go over the top. This guy Vince Goodwill just said, according to a source, we're keeping Ivy. Like, how do you guys keep up with all this stuff?
And that's actually important because he's from Detroit.
There you
go. From Detroit.
I literally just go like this. So I just sit here, I just go like this and keep updating as fast as I can.
It's crazy. But like he said that, but that's important to note because like for me, when it comes down to the Knicks, you have extension eligible questions when it comes to Emmanuel Quickly and Obi Toppin, who are going to be extension eligible 2 summers from, well, actually next summer, but those extensions will kick in 2 summers from now. And for me, I would rather commit to Obi Toppin on a longer term deal because I can find an Emmanuel Quickly easier than I can find another Obi Toppin. Though I don't think either of them are generational or anything like that, but I'm just talking about as far as team building. A lot of guards like Emmanuel Quickly are coming through the college system and whatnot.
I think I tweeted about this yesterday that every year there's been a guy like that. It was Maxey and Quickly in 2020. It was Bones Highland last year. And I forget who it was year before that, but
Poole in 2019, I would say probably.
Jordan Poole, that's exactly who it was. And like Shantelle mentioned before, Ty is literally the exact statistical blueprint and style of play, combo guard, microwave type scorer. He's better passer than they were. But by the way, we have the Spurs at 9. This is where like things get tricky. Like I think Duren, Sohan, and Ousmane Dieng are the 3 guys they have to. They're not have to.
But,
say again.
The pick's going to work out.
Oh yeah, 100%. No matter who they
this guy's going to be a multi-time NBA All-Star. This pick's working out.
Andrew wrote in the private chat. Of course, nothing leaks with the Spurs. It's funny.
Yeah. I think that I will say Ousmane Dieng is people saying Duren, Sohan. Like Dieng's in the conversation. I know the Spurs love him. They love their Europeans, especially their Frenchmen. And I really think that it's going to be a heavily considered pick here. And if he goes here, people will be surprised, but I won't be at all.
It's funny because like in one of the mocks, I think it was NBA Draft.net, they had them going Ousmane Dieng, and then at the 25th overall pick, they had Ismail Kamagate, who's also from France. I think Kamagate is going to be really good. We may get to him later on tonight. So right now we're waiting on the Spurs, and there's been smoke about a potential. I don't think this is going to happen. But the potential swap, Shantelle, between DeJounte Murray and John Collins.
Do it.
Ryan, I know you're all about this. All about this because you're a Hawks fan. Shantelle, we'll toss it to you and then Ryan jump in. Would you do that if you're the Spurs? I know if you're the Hawks, you do it. If you're the Spurs, I'm not doing it from the Spurs.
Yo, I'm definitely not doing it because DeJounte Murray is a top 10 point guard in the league.
Yeah.
Easy. He is the most slept on player in the league. I don't know how you trade a piece like him. In fact, if the Spurs want to make the postseason, then they keep a piece like DeJounte Murray, one of the best point guards in the league. Ryan, I know that makes you upset, but do you also feel like it's a good fit in the backcourt with him and Trae Young? Because like we know that Trae Young is one of those point guards that offensively is so gifted, but do you like that pairing with him and DeJounte Murray? Because I feel like DeJounte Murray should have the ball in his hands.
Oh, they didn't go Ousmane Dieng.
They went with Jeremy Sohan here. I love this pick so much. Keep him in Texas. He was at Baylor. He was in Waco.
Inspector Gadget on defense.
Oh my goodness.
I think he's the best defender in the class because of his versatility. He defends 1 through 5. He showed that at Baylor. 6th man of the year in the Big 12. Like, he does so much for a team like Scotty Barnes did for the Raptors this year. I think his jumper is going to need to project, but like this is a great pick. And this guy, like John said, especially with an attitude like Jeremy Sohan, he's going to work out 100%.
Yeah.
But I wanted DeJounte.
Yeah.
Him and Trey are exact opposites.
John, Jeremy Sohan. I mean, Ryan calls him the best defender in the draft. Give us your scouting report. And it's one of these things where it's like, of course the Spurs pick him. So we expect this to work out. This is a smart team.
Jeremy Sohan is
like
going to be like the next Derek McKee, the next Bruce Bowen. He's going to be the next great role player that leads like the Spurs to a championship post Popovich. But we are getting closer to tension on the island of Manhattan.
Oh, yes.
I feel it. I feel it.
See, San Antonio's chilling. They're looking at the board. They're not going to trade up. We're like, all right, we're going to be smart. We're going to get Sohan. I think it's only a matter of time before the Spurs are good again. I don't know if Pop is still going to be there because every year we're like, is he going to retire or whatever the case may be? But they've been down for a while, rebuilding injury. They've had some bad injury luck. DeJounte Murray, before he became an all-star, tore his ACL a few years ago and then really got going. And now we have a couple of nervous franchises coming up. We have the Washington Wizards at 10, and we have the Knicks at 11. And the Wizards, with all the Bradley Beal questions and whether or not he's going to opt in or opt out or extend his contract. And there have been reports, I think Mike Scotto reported that Bradley Beal intends to opt out. And we know that Bradley Beal, he's led voice to wanting to stay in Washington. Do you believe him? Is it finally time for him to go? Shantelle, I mean, what do we think the Wizards should do here, ultimately?
I think they should go for a guard, to be honest with you, because I think Bradley Beal is out. I think that's a whole lot of smoke and mirrors about him trying to want to stay in Washington. So it'll be interesting to see where they go at this point. To be honest with you, is there a chance where they do pick up a Jalen Duren, right? Because he's available.
Duren and Porzingis is interesting.
And they have Thomas Bryant, Daniel Gafford. Like
they have so many centers.
I would call Charlotte and say, you guys are the team in the league that needs a center more than anybody else. You have 13 and 15. I want both of them. And you can have 10. You can have Duren instead of Mark Williams. And you can be happy after tonight.
That's
it's not going to happen though. So
Sohan doesn't start for Baylor, but he was the 6th man of the year, but he's the 9th pick in the draft. This is what a world.
Same with Scotty Barnes, was 4th pick in the draft too. Scotty was the same way. It's
very,
very
similar.
similar.
State's different though because Florida State was always known for bringing like lottery picks off the bench. Like they did it with Patrick Williams, they did it with Fiondu Kabengele. He didn't go in the lottery, but like it's crazy to me.
Yeah, and that happened a long time ago. People remember with Marvin Williams. I mean, granted, North Carolina won a national title, but that team, he was a 6th man. He's 2nd overall pick in the draft after Andrew Bogut and right before Darren Williams and Chris Paul. But there we go. And now Shams is saying Johnny Davis is going number 10 to the Wizards. That's somebody I thought the Knicks should have gave a look. But look, I think the Knicks should get Duren. I really do at this point.
Yeah.
It locks up their set. People want to say they go for upside. Go for upside. Don't take a center. You can get one later on. But like when you're at pick 11 and the potential stars start to dwindle, like I question a lot of AJ Griffin's ceiling because of his on-ball ability, his defense, his burst, his agility side to side. And I think at this point, like you take exactly what you need. Like there's no reason they shouldn't take him, or at least try to shop with teams like Charlotte who want to jump OKC, who also need a center at 12. So but we'll see what happens. AJ Griffin's on the board, and the Knicks need 3-point shooting more than anything else. Probably more than the center too. They have a lot of needs, obviously. So. But we'll see.
Who do we know? I feel like they're going to take.
I think they're taking AJ.
Based on what you guys are saying, like just in terms of the Bradley Beal stuff, I would think an insurance wing right now.
Oh, the Wizards. You said are they definitely taking Johnny or no?
They definitely are. Yeah.
Okay, I'm making sure.
This makes sense. Yeah.
I think the Knicks are going to take AJ. I think they're still like didn't expect him to be here. I think. So they're like, you know what? We got to take him while he's on the board. Get our 3-point shooter. Another Duke guy with Cam and RJ.
Oh, we'll see about Cam. I don't know how much longer
he's
going to be
there. He might not be on the team in 3 hours.
He might not. Yeah. I mean, and it'd be interesting. I wonder if the Knicks would also trade out here. And then Oklahoma City, they got the 2nd overall pick earlier. They got Chet Holmgren. They're coming up here at number 12.
And Duren.
Wow.
They're coming up here at number 12. And they already have Josh Giddey. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, assuming they keep him because we don't know. And they don't have a ton else. I mean, Kenrich Williams is nice, but we don't know if he's going to be used in the trade. Lou Dort, there's some trade smoke around him, particularly with Portland. I'm wondering if any of these teams are actually going to go. We saw reports about the Knicks potentially. Hey, are they going to come back and actually try to still make this trade for Jaden Ivey, even though Jaden Ivey was already picked? I wonder if we're going to see some trades after the fact. Normally, it doesn't happen that way, I don't think, but we'll see. But ultimately, right now, we are waiting on the New York Knicks. The draft itself.
Scary words right there that you just said. We are
waiting on the New York Knicks. I mean,
John, they got time.
John, what do you think? There's Jalen Duren. There's AJ Griffin. There's
what's the big need other than point guard? What's the big need for the
3-point shooting and center also?
Center maybe if you don't keep Mitchell Robinson.
Mitch is always injured though, so you know what I mean. Like Mitch is injured, like his body's just failing him. Where I'm like, I don't know how they don't go with Duren.
The problem. It's not a problem, but like this is always the thing. There's going to be no sizzle with this pick.
Oh yeah,
there's going to be no sizzle.
Sometimes it's good. Sometimes
I get it, but it's like a fielder's choice.
Yeah,
like there's no sizzle. There's no sizzle with this pick. I mean, when looking and evaluating the draft prospects, I think Jalen Duren could have a Kevon Looney type, role in the NBA. But the problem is Kevon Looney looks good because he's playing next to Curry, Thompson, and Draymond. Nobody's going to confuse that with Alec Burks, RJ Barrett, and whoever else you want to throw at the 4.
And he won the lottery pick. He was a late first. I think it was the last pick in the first round where he got drafted.
Yes.
I wonder if the Knicks will even trade down and get an extra pick. I know that wouldn't be.
I don't hate either. Chantelle mentioned Ty. Like, I look at guys like Ty, Malachi Branham, Jalen. Oh my God, I love Jalen Williams, Santa Clara. I mentioned that a bunch of times. Mark Williams. There are guys down into the teens, and teams are going to want to trade up from there, like the Rockets, the Spurs, the T-Wolves. Like those are spots you can look to.
I think, guys, if you went with somebody like Mark Williams, you have a chance to get like somebody who could be more of a Capella. I think the ceiling is higher for Mark Williams than it is Duren.
No.
That's funny. I
don't
disagree.
hate the Malachi pick. I don't hate the Malachi pick because like he's a great, like he shot like 50% from the field this year. He's a bit streaky. He's one of those guys that's like a streaky scorer, but he also defends, has length. I wouldn't be mad at them picking Malachi or Ty. So if they were to trade down, I'm not mad at that at all. But I do kind of like the Mark Williams one because he's a good rim protector and a rebounder.
It's funny you mentioned that, like John. I like Duren more. I think Mark Williams' defense is a little overrated for the NBA transition because of his lack of switchability sometimes. But I think Duren's ceiling is Bam Adebayo. I don't think he's going to get there, but I love his modern touch that he's added to his game, kind of like DeAndre Ayton has added when he got into the league. Duren's mid-range is consistent enough to see it projecting very, very well in the league and maybe even to a 3-ball.
I mean, Mark Williams, I'll say this. Mark Williams' defense was exposed in the Virginia Tech game, in the ACC tournament title game. Now, conversely, in the NCAA tournament, statistically, he was the best shot blocker that ever played for Mike Krzyzewski of any Duke team that's ever went to a Final Four. So at the end in the ACC tournament, Virginia Tech on a one-day prep made it obviously a little bit, different. But look, we'll see what happens. But I mean, I think right now the move for the Knicks, just based on my gut, is going to be AJ Griffin.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
Brian, what do you think of before the Knicks actually pick Ousmane Dieng? Is that somebody that they should consider here?
I don't want the Knicks to ruin his career. He's relatively I'm being honest. He's relatively raw. He'll never New York will never give him the time of day. I think not time of day. They won't give him enough patience because he needs that. And he started off shooting 20% from the field and 13% from 3 in the NBL this year. But he turned around shooting like 50% and 45% from 3 in the last like 9 or 10 games. It just took him time. It's a young international guy. He's transitioning to a lot of different things. Like acclimating is tough. I don't want him on the Knicks. I want him on the Thunder or even like Cleveland or somewhere where he has time and patience, which that is not a thing in New York. That is not a thing. I don't want him there.
No.
Chantelle, what do you want them to do here? This is your team. And look, the Ty Washington thought is interesting. It seems like he's not going to go that high anymore as it did once, but look, he's good, man. He would fit.
That's why I think they should trade down a bit because Ty is going to be there. Like I have Ty going like 18, 19, 20 around that range, but I still don't. I don't know. I still don't know how you don't draft Duren at this point. Like, I don't know how you pass that up. Sometimes you have to draft the best player available.
And the Knicks have enough picks where they can trade back into the first round later. So if they wanted to get Duren now, come back in and, let me look at the draft board here. If you wanted to come back in and maybe get, 19 from Minnesota or 20 from San Antonio or 17 from the Rockets with a future first, like, you can do that. And I wouldn't be mad at it. Ty Washington, I do think makes sense. I think at 11, it maybe feel a little early to some people, but I also think if you really like somebody, just go and get them,
Knicks fans that have no patience, if they take Ty, that's a little bit of a reach, and he isn't very good at the minimum, it's going to be...
oh, my God, the Knicks are on the clock. Call your cardiologist.
Oh, my God, here we go.
I'm nervous. I don't even care for the Knicks. I'm so nervous.
Yeah, I know, because I just, like... A lot has happened, but not on the trade front. And I just feel like the weight of something is going to shock me at some point soon. And what better team?
Oh, my God.
Oh,
my God. It says right now that the Knicks, according to somebody on Twitter, are going to take Ousmane Dieng.
No, don't ruin him. No, dude. Are you kidding me?
Well, he was projected. He was projected to go top 10.
All right.
He is good. Yeah, and
he's not going to be Giannis, but he's going to be that freak of the class. Oh my God, this is happening. Oh my God.
I think this
Ryan, how are you feeling right now?
The Knicks is a great pick in terms of like upside and player value. I think he's a top 10 player in the class. Upside wise, he could be top 3 or 5. I really think that. I just know he needs patience. I know his development game needs patience. I hope for the best for the New York and him because I love him and I'm nervous for them. That's all. How many times have they drafted Europeans and it hasn't worked out in their team because the upside?
Well, I remember vividly. Again, this is probably all before your time, but in 1999, the Knicks could have drafted Ron Artest and they took Frederick Weiss.
Oh boy! And then he got dunked on by Vince Carter and never played in the NBA. Yeah. Dunked over, I should say. Ousmane Dieng played with the New Zealand Breakers in the Australian Basketball League, which is a good pro league down there. Some very, very talented college players that everyone watching this has heard of are playing in that league. And on his team, he had Hugo Besson, who actually, is somebody we may get to later on in the draft. Peyton Siva, if you remember him from Louisville, was on his team as well. Ousmane Dieng was there. Chasson Randall was also on the team too, former Knick.
Oh, God, the pick is in.
Like the Kristaps was really good. He was good when he started. It just he just wasn't good enough. He wasn't taking that next step, and the injuries that the Knicks needed and wanted. And I'm scared that might be a thing. But this has happened time and time again. Like I said, I like the pick because I love him. But AJ Griffin sliding this far, I think it is because of medical reports. He was the only player that had concerning medical reports. But Duren's still on the board. Duren on the board for OKC or even Charlotte. That's wild to me that he's still here. So
that is amazing that they got Ousmane Dieng. So I think he's going to be starting next to RJ Barrett. That's your 2-3.
Yeah, he's a 3.
I don't know if they're going to trade back into the first round. I don't know what they're going to do.
We have a trade.
Whoa, we do?
Oh. Ousmane Dieng is going, according to Woj, is going to be traded to Oklahoma City.
Are the Knicks getting 12?
Probably. Why? That's
hold on a sec. My thing is, if you're gonna give up a pick, you got to get something back.
They're gonna get something.
Yeah.
See, you know what it is? 34 or a future pick. The Thunder have 1 million picks. 1 million.
No, but that's what I'm saying. You need to get some sort of an asset back.
It'll probably be pick 34 or a future second that they're getting because the Knicks don't they probably didn't want Ousmane and the Thunder were saying we want him. We want to make sure we get him so that you don't trade with anybody else. We're gonna move up one spot. We'll take him. You go to 12. You get an extra pick in the future, and the Knicks take whoever they were gonna get originally, which might be AJ or or Jalen Duren.
The Knicks are gonna get multiple first-round picks.
Multiple. Whoa. Okay. Whoa.
Break out the Tito's.
Yeah. Hold on. They might have done something smart here.
Well, yeah.
So
I don't know
great.
So let's see. Adrian Wojnarowski is reporting right now that the Knicks are trading the number 11th pick, which is Ousmane Dieng, to Oklahoma City. The Thunder will send multiple first-round picks to New York. What I want to know is, does that include number 12, or is that just 2 future firsts?
Well, we need some
clarity. Wow.
We need some clarity.
I think it's
Yeah.
gonna.
The agents need to finish the text. Send it all in one spot. Let these guys report it. Like
I happen to know the one of the agents who works closely with Ousmane Dieng. Maybe he's probably a little busy right now.
yeah.
I don't mind him in OKC though. That might.
Perfect.
Yeah, I don't mind him in OKC at all, and I hope they're able.
That's
to
the
keep
patience. That's the patience that Ryan wanted. So Shantelle, you got 2 first-round picks, and you don't know if one of them is number 12. But I mean, how are you feeling about this at this point?
I feel like they might go for Ty at this point. I feel like there's a very good chance.
Well, the Knicks just traded out, and Oklahoma City is staying at 12.
Oh my God!
So they just gave up their pick.
I think on TV they'll still show OKC, but they might be using it.
Unless they trade back in. So everyone watching, we're gonna find this out together as a family.
It's amazing.
I just said before this that I feel like the Knicks are gonna do something that really like just rattles us. And I actually think like on the surface, this is a smart move. I just want to know. And it's interesting because on one hand, Oklahoma City can't keep all their picks. They have like 40 first rounders or whatever it is.
Right. They got to use them
in the next 7 years. They have to use them. They have to use them for actual players. And for the Knicks, if they're stockpiling draft picks, are they going to be in the market for? We talked about Bradley Beal earlier. There's been Donovan Mitchell smoke. We don't know who's going to, like, whoever the next disgruntled star is that may want a shot in New York to try to help bring them back. Like, are they positioning themselves for that? Is what I'm intrigued to find out.
Multiple first-round picks.
Just another college basketball take, guys. The Big Ten had 3 players selected in the top 10.
Wow.
You know, and they had 2 teams in the Sweet 16.
Ben Stevens would love that.
Seems like the Thunder are picking, by the way.
Am I right, though?
and look, I mean, this is crazy. Jalen Duren's still on the board.
It seems like the Thunder are picking. From what everything seems, it seems like they're future picks.
Jalen Duren is still on the board. Oklahoma City is going to win 19 games next year.
Duren and Chet,
they're going to be fun, though.
Oh, everyone was ready for the Memphis Gonzaga second round game and to see that matchup, and it was definitely fun, a heavy hitter. Like, now they're going to play together is awesome. Their defense is going to be incredible. But if they draft here, getting Ousmane, Chet, and if they get Jalen Duren, the Thunder, that is a absolutely insane draft. Even if it's AJ Griffin, like 3 lottery picks like that.
You like that? You like that draft, huh?
I love that. They're going for size, which they have none of. They were starting 6'7" and 6'8" centers last year. That, like, Jeremiah Robinson Earl is good. He's solid, but he's a rotational guy, and he's undersized at the front court, and they need size. So,
someone on my timeline said after the Jang pick, it feels like the Knicks just picked that for someone else. Like, they could not possibly draft Jang.
Y'all saw me.
But this is the thing right now. So they just don't have a first round pick in this draft.
Maybe not.
As of now, yeah. As of now, they do not. The
thing is, they're going to trade back in. I think they'll trade back in.
Yeah, because they have all their first round picks going forward.
It's not part of the trade. To confirm, I'm confirming that.
All their first round that hasn't been reported yet. All their first round picks going forward.
Oh my god!
And on top of that, and the Thunder still have the 12. Yeah, Woj confirms the Thunder still have the 12th pick. It isn't part of the Knicks trade.
Oh no!
OKC has just picked Jalen Williams according to Shams.
No way! This team is crazy.
The guard from Santa Clara.
Wait, which team? Because I think that could apply either way.
Yeah.
Jalen Williams. Yeah, it does. The Thunder are taking Jalen Williams. Apparently.
I like it.
I think they should have took the other Jalen, but Jalen Duren is fall. This is our first faller so far.
The Hornets
faller. Because Ivy, we expected him to go 4. He's going 5. We have somebody who's actually falling into this draft. So, chat, let us know what you think, how you feel so far about this
is
draft.
Just amazing to me. The Knicks, they just gave up their pick, and we don't know the terms.
They probably didn't love anybody. But that's the thing.
Yeah.
All their picks going forward in the first round. They now have 2 extras. They also have one more pick from the Kristaps Porzingis trade that is, I believe, lottery protected next year from Dallas. We expect that to convert because Dallas is going to be good this year. And if they're in the playoffs, then that'll convert. So the Knicks have plenty of picks to play with. And I think that the reason why you accumulate those picks is to make a serious trade, especially if you're in a big market like the Knicks. And they're obviously trying to win now and recapture that feel-good season that they had from 2020, 2021, in which they were
so you
4
think
seed.
You think they're waiting for you know what? We're going to take our chances trying to get Donovan Mitchell or something like that.
I think
Could be.
I don't think they're going to trade back into the first round. Maybe
They're
they
not
with the
what they're
Hornets.
doing, and it's again. I'm not, Joe NBA, but what it appears to me is what they're doing is they're stockpiling assets.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I think the Knicks are doing exactly that. I think that they're looking at right now how to do this. So yeah, Woj confirms Santa Clara's Jalen Williams is going to be drafted number 12 overall. I believe Steve Nash was 15th. Steve Nash was 15th in '96, right? Chantel, I have that right. So
Yeah, he definitely was 15th. So
Yeah,
he got drafted higher than good
he ain't
old
going to be
Steve
better.
Nash.
I don't think he's going to be better than
Definitely
Steve
not.
Nash. I think he could be good, but Oklahoma City is just going to have oh my God, it's going to be just kids running around.
I like the pairing with him and Chet, though. I love that.
Yeah. I mean,
Jalen, they have so many ball hand. Like if they're gonna keep this pick, because like we saw Usman quote unquote go to the Knicks at 11, and then they announced the trade after because things take a second. If it's Jalen Williams, Josh Giddey, SG, like it gets to a point where like, what in the world, what is going on here? But their defense is going to be abysmal. Chet helps obviously a lot, but oof.
Unbelievable. So around the room, John, you first. Best player available left in the draft. Is it Jalen Duren or is it somebody else, you think?
Malachi Branham, for somebody who only, played 1 year, was able to transition from being a power forward to start the year and somebody who initiated offense. I think there's a lot of upside with that pick, especially now as we're getting to 13. But salute to Jalen Duren right now, who was sensational last year for a Santa Clara team that I think, had an outside chance to make the NCAA tournament if they, stayed healthy. But I mean, this is just an awesome, awesome scene, for a player, again, who wasn't even on the radar a year ago. This is the beautiful side of it. And I see him, hugging his family right now. This is just an awesome, awesome scene.
Shantelle, what do you think of the players left in this draft? Who stands out to you the most in terms of like maybe somebody who could, because we talked about Donovan Mitchell, Bam Adebayo, these sort of middle first round picks. Like, can Jalen Duren or somebody else maybe become all-star level?
I actually really like Mark Williams. I know there's been questions about him being able to play defense in the league, but I still think he's a great rim protector, rebounder. He finishes really well against the basket. I think you can fit Mark Williams into a starting lineup right now on a team that needs a center. So I think he's one of those guys that is still left on the board that people should be looking for other than Duren, because I still don't know how Duren has fallen this far.
Yeah.
Ryan?
Yeah, Duren's the clear guy right now. I think, especially for a team like Charlotte who needs a center, like I said, more than anyone else in the league, it is literally a common sense pick. If they are picking at 15 and the Cavs are at 14 and the Cavs aren't going to take a center, but you don't risk it if anyone's going to trade up with the Cavs. You take the guy that's falling right now when you have the opportunity to. I also think guys like Tari Eason, AJ Griffin's still on the board, Ochai Agbaji, even like Jaden Hardy from the G League, like these are guys that are not necessarily falling, but Brandon's in there too. Dalen Terry, who I'm a huge fan of, but now teams are probably readjusting what they thought was going to be around because the Duren slide is causing a little bit of commotion.
AJ Griffin's a good call because there's somebody else who I thought could have been off the board by now, potentially. There was smoke about him being a top 10 pick at one point. I saw some Moxie move back down to like 11, 12, but for most of the year, he was up there. And John, I'll toss this to you. Just AJ Griffin sliding this far. One, is it surprising? And two, do you feel like teams are a little too low on AJ Griffin?
Well, the injury concerns that he had before he got to Duke are obviously real. That's a real part of the story right now. AJ Griffin, if he's healthy, is a real threat at the NBA because he's a specialist. He is somebody, again, who is a volume three-point shooter. This is a guy, again, who from what we saw last year and watching him on the prep circuit could have a Chuck Person-like NBA career, kind of be like the Rifleman. He has that type of ability. But, the injury stuff is definitely a big question. He was injured, obviously, before he ever got to Duke and missed the start of last season with an injury.
AJ Griffin and Jalen Duren are the two names for me to watch right now. There are some other players I like. I think Ty Washington. I mean, Chantel's been on this. We did get a question earlier about Patrick Baldwin. He's probably a little further down on the board, but he's somebody who I think we might be starting to hear his name at some point. I like Ismail Kamagate a lot. He's not going to be until later on. Jaden Hardy, we mentioned. So I think now we're going to start seeing more trades because now some teams, just, it's the middle of the first round. We're probably going to see teams just sort of back out. The Knicks, I feel like on the trade front, made the first real splash, and they were like, we're just going to get out of here. We're going to stockpile picks.
And we still don't know the context of the trade.
Right.
It seems like they said multiple first, but so it's 3. I would imagine 3 is the idea. It's not a couple. It's not 2. So I guess it's 3 future picks, but the Knicks it depends on what they do with these picks, but if they wait to use them in the next few years, like that's obviously not great for what they're trying to hit their agenda now. But if they're going to use them in the offseason to make a move, like them in a month, we might be saying, all right, the Knicks did a good job by making that trade.
Yeah, but I'm following this now. I want to have some Knicks content.
Fair enough.
It's a live stream right now. You know what I mean? You guys are going to be on Twitter from like July or June 30th to explain this to me. For somebody who's kind of an outsider in your world, what is like Twitter like for you from June 30th to July 10th?
Oh, it's impossible. It's really from the end of the NBA Finals, so June, fill in the blank, until July 6th. Because by the time, like for me, once we get to July 4th, I'm over it. I'm like, I'm at a barbecue, I'm eating a burger, whatever the case may be, and it's like I just can't. And we're almost at summer league, but still you're on your phone, admittedly. So it's really from like June 20th, give or take, till July 6th, and it's just like you just find yourself trying to work on stuff, maybe some stuff on the NBA front, and then you're just on your phone, just group chats, and texts, and DMs.
And who are the big free agents this year?
Oh my goodness! This year it's not even about like. It's become in the NBA less about the free agents and more about who can be traded. Like, I think DeAndre Ayton on the free agent front, since he doesn't have a contract, is somebody who's, going to make some waves. But, like, and we have to see, is Kyrie Irving going to opt out? Is Bradley Beal going to opt out? Zach LaVine is reportedly going to re-sign with the Chicago Bulls. That's a big one. So it's just a matter of whether or not it's going to happen. Right now, Jalen Duren is off the board. This worked out perfectly for Charlotte. Ryan, let's go to you because you talked about this earlier. This was the most center-needy team in the NBA, who, by the way, still does not have a head coach because Kenny Atkinson was like, y'all won't let me bring in my assistants, so I'm not doing this. Jalen Duren is going to be with LaMelo Ball, and, well, we don't know if they're going to keep Miles Bridges. That's another free agent, John. That could be out there, and then are they going to keep Terry Rozier? I think they should, but LaMelo Ball has a lob threat, among other things, with Jalen Duren now, Ryan.
Yeah, he's the best true 5 in the class. I do believe that. I think their idea was we're not going to trade up from 13 to 15 because if we don't get Duren, we get Mark Williams, and we're just as happy with getting Mark and someone else instead of just Duren. So they said if Duren's there, clearly we'll take him. If not, we'll take Mark and then someone else at 15, or we'll trade from there if we're happy. So this is golden age for them right now because now they hold the power. If teams want to trade now, I think they're probably a likely trade down candidate or trade out because teams are like, they're saying we got our guy. We got the best center in the class. We got who we wanted. So if you guys want 15, we're listening to every offer possible.
Whoa. We have a trade. Adrian Wojnarowski is reporting, Shantelle. You were all over this. I'm going to toss this to you.
Oh, yeah.
The Pistons are acquiring Jalen Duren, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, number 13 in the trade. So no DeAndre Ayton with Jaden Ivey and Kate Cunningham. We could throw that out. It's going to be Jalen Duren. They still have Isaiah Stewart there. Don't know what's going to happen there. I guess it doesn't matter. That's interesting.
Somebody now says that the Knicks are going to get Jalen Duren from Charlotte.
Shams just tweeted that the Hornets traded Jalen Duren to the Knicks.
Whoa.
So
the Pistons are getting.
This is the first Woj Shams.
All right. Versus Shams, baby.
A very big thing in the NBA, in NBA Twitter is who is always right, Woj or Shams, and is one reporting better or more? Something that it's a very big competitive thing that I don't know if they think about, but here we go. One's going to be right, one's going to be wrong. So
that's the other thing, John. People actually keep score. There are tallies of who breaks how many draft picks, trades, usually trades, free agencies. People do that?
It'll be Woj. Never get into the NBA.
It'll be this is why I don't want to be a newsbreaker. It's Woj, Shams, Chris Haynes, Michael Scotto, Jake Fisher, like people will keep tallies and then they'll keep score of like who broke the most things because people are going head to head. The newsbreaker business is insane.
I feel that a little bit. I think, with like in the college world when there's like coaching hires and stuff, but it's not like this.
No, it's
it's all in a matter of minutes. That's why it's like there's no more time to do it.
Yeah. And college is a little. It's there's its own volatility there for sure, especially when you're dealing with schools in places that like that's their pro team equivalent, and it's really life or death. Happens in college football and basketball, but it's just wild in a different way. So Shantelle, let's bring this back around to you. First of all, we don't know what's going on with Jalen Duren right now, but if he's with the Pistons because Woj said so, or if he's with the Knicks, like, what do you think is the better fit for him here?
I think he fits in really well with the Pistons, to be honest with you, but I'm not mad at the Knicks going out and trying to get him because that's a need that they need on the team, right? Jalen Duren, I think, is a great pick. The fact that he fell all the way to the Knicks, possibly through a trade, I think is extremely impressive. But here's the thing. Does Detroit end up giving up Ivy? Like, is there a trade to be made with Detroit and the Knicks, right?
Bringing it back around to what John said earlier.
Is there a possibility that it happens?
So Sham's report for clarity says sources, Hornets traded Jalen Duren to the Knicks. So the Hornets are doing that. But Woj is saying that Duren was traded to the Pistons. I don't know if that means...
He didn't say from who. Yeah, right.
I don't know if that means the Pistons are rerouting Jalen Duren to the Knicks.
What is
from
going
Detroit.
on right now? Or so vice versa.
We need clarity. Okay? Comments help us out. What's going on here? And give us your thoughts, like, just throughout. This is amazing.
The Pistons, if it's the Pistons, they would have one of the best young cores in the NBA, very, very young. So, like, we'll see how proven they'll get in the next couple of years. But that would be a super fun team to watch. Like, I think John said about the Rockets before, like, they might win 20 games. Actually, they would probably win more because Cade is next level type of player. But they're going to be fun to watch for years to come. If they get him or not. Here we go. Knicks are trading Kemba Walker to Detroit. Sources tell.
It looks like Jalen Duren is cut. Well, obviously, it's not just Kemba Walker. There has to be more there. Like, is the name Emmanuel Quickly or Obi Toppin or what's going to come out here? Because clearly we know they're not going to keep Mitchell Robinson. That could become a sign and trade down the line. Jalen Duren and Mitchell Robinson is not going to make sense as a tandem. I also just want to throw in here as a total aside, Henry Abbott of True Hoop pointed this out. That Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, both new Thunder players barring trades, share an agent and have been working out together in Santa Barbara for months. See how this works. Just
Sham's report says that the Knicks acquired Jalen Duren and then are moving Duren and Kemba to the Pistons, apparently. So they probably got Duren. They probably got Duren, gave him.
Me and Shantelle were like, what?
I just got a text from a Knicks source that said punted.
The Hornets.
Somebody tweet that John reported that on the show. Or you could just actually say this with the link to the FanDuel stream. Just Knicks source punted. See how Knicks fans are going to react to that.
Just explain this to me. So they shed the salary.
Kemba was not playing on the team because he literally just wasn't good enough, and he's getting paid millions of dollars to sit on the bench. So a team like the Pistons, who has a lot of cap space because they have a lot of young guys, they take a good player plus Kemba's really bad contract, and they basically just suck it up for a year because they can deal with it with the big cap space that they have. But they get Duren out of it, and they probably give something back. Who knows what's going on? Ochai Bozzi?
By the way, Ochai is the 14th pick to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Love that.
I'm trying to find out right now how many picks they got back.
Yeah. Let's see. Tell them you're on live with FanDuel.
We need content. I'm only on for 2 more picks.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. So, and it's crazy that 90 minutes.
Not confirmed yet per a Knicks source.
90 minutes is this.
That's going to take a while. I feel like that one.
We have an update from Woj.
Okay.
The Pistons are sending the Hornets the 2025 first-round pick via Milwaukee. So that's
Okay.
a 2025 first round pick from
That's
the Bucks.
that's the trade from the Jeremy Grant. Sorry, go ahead.
In the Duren trade, Detroit got that pick from Portland yesterday, the Jeremy Grant deal. So
Right.
the Pistons are sending the Hornets that first round pick. But what are the Knicks getting in all this is also what I want to know.
Maybe
what
maybe
else
that
is
pick
going?
is going to the Knicks. I don't know. They're
See, this is what happens when you have multiple reporters. Like, John, this is what it is. Just your head is spinning all the time, trying to put the pieces together. And you have guys talking to different people. You have one reporter talking to agents, another one talking to executives, or vice versa. And it's like they're both getting the same information, but like one's like told differently than the other. Ryan, you have your finger up.
I want to point out about the Ochai Agbaji stuff. Ochai Agbaji and AJ Griffin play a very similar role. They will in the NBA. Ochai's 4 years older. He's more experienced. He's a better defender. He's a little more athletic. But the Cavs clearly want to make a playoff jump next year because if they wanted to go upside and the guy who does maybe have a little more of it, they go with AJ Griffin because of the age difference. But they went with Ochai. It seemed like he was their guy from the start. Like, it always made sense. It's a match made in heaven. Like, it couldn't be better to play off Darius Garland and add size in the perimeter. But it's interesting that they passed on AJ. I wonder if it's the medical reports or it's if the Ochai was their guy. I don't want AJ on my team, on the Hawks, by the way. I don't want AJ Griffin on my team. That's 16. And I just like, I understand it's a steal for value, but I don't want him on my team. So.
Oh, and I just got a text from somebody who said the Knicks probably got all that space to get Jalen Brunson, which I think Knicks fans are divided on that. I forgot about Jalen Brunson because
of the Kemba deal. Oh,
I'm with that. I really like Jalen Brunson.
But are you gonna like him at potentially 4 years, $100 million or something?
No, I don't like him for that much.
and clearing out all he did, and you lose your first round pick. So you're basically trading. You're basically sending a first round pick, a lottery pick,
more money than
free
the Knicks
agent.
paid Allen Houston.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, because he got 5 for 100. And look, I like Allen Houston a lot. He was one of my favorite players as a kid. But
oh my God,
Jalen Brunson for that. Look, I like Jalen Brunson a good deal. I also think the Mavs should keep him. And Mark Cuban was kind of like, oh yeah, we're definitely going to keep him because we can pay him the most. We'll see how high the Knicks are willing to go. I think if they're going to go that high and the Mavs keep him, that they would actually be doing the Knicks a favor potentially because that number is just too much with the Julius Randle contract.
Well, there's also rumors, though, that Kyrie Irving wanted to go to Dallas.
Oh, my God.
Is Mark Cuban making a play for Kyrie?
No,
is it possible?
No.
That can't happen.
The Pistons, the Hornets are taking Mark Williams. We expected that at 15. There's no way they trade this. I will give every guarantee I have in the world. There's no way they're trading this also. But they got their center.
To be clear, Jalen Duren is with the Pistons, right?
Yes.
Right. Now, okay. Jalen Duren, and they're also getting Mark Williams. So that's an interesting draft for the Hornets, who still don't have a coach. We think it might be Mike D'Antoni, which I think is going to be his 5th or 6th time as a head coach.
They don't have a coach, but they have a center, so that's okay.
AJ Griffin fell out of the lottery.
Oh no, we're next. Oh no. Hold on, let me see who's on the board real
There's
fast.
a lot of clippable stuff here.
AJ's no. I want Dalen Terry. I want Dalen Terry on our team. They're not going to pick him. Actually, Branham too. Damn, this is tough. Tari Easton's on the board too. Elite defender. Oh man, this is tough. I want Dalen Terry, but they're not going to pick him.
AJ Griffin. I think AJ Griffin's going to.
I can't be mad if they pick AJ. I can't be mad.
Yeah,
he's the free faller.
That's the free faller.
And the Hawks, they could pick him and trade him. I think that's something they could do because the Hawks are actually trying to. Ryan is not happy about this. The Ryan cam is going to be great, whatever happens here. John Collins reportedly more than anyone else is somebody who could be dealt today, and we still haven't had. That's something we haven't had yet. We haven't had like the big trade involving NBA players or whatever the case may be. But AJ Griffin seems to be the free faller right now, and I think it's what John said earlier. I think it might be the injuries. There was streakiness and inconsistencies, but like college kids, like that sort of comes with the territory sometimes. And it wasn't perfect, but I didn't think he'd fall this far. He's falling to the point where it's like, is Wendell Moore even going to go ahead of him? And that's interesting to me.
I do love Wendell Moore, especially as you get to the contenders. The Hawks aren't like a contender, but when you get to teams like the Hawks, the Bulls, the Grizzlies, the Nuggets, even the Warriors and Heat who are trying to make extra jumps like in the playoffs, like that I would rather have Wendell Moore for next year. But AJ Griffin is hard to deny at this point. There's got to be something wrong. There's got to be something in medical reports in his knees. 100% has to be something. I feel like it has. We'll find out in a week probably, but who knows? I'm very nervous, but I just don't. I don't know. I thought Jalen Williams was definitely going to be on the board, and I know for a fact the Hawks were not going to let Jalen Williams go past them. So but the same thing happened with Cam Thomas last year, and they didn't take him because Jalen Johnson was on the board. So they might do the same thing this year with AJ Griffin because he's on the board, and they're like, you know what? I don't know. They're still on the Hornets pick. Okay.
Still on the Hornets pick on the draft. So this is a lot here, but AJ Griffin, man, that's the one for me right now. That FanDuel did tweet it. They did tweet out the basketball. FanDuel did tweet out the punted comment, John. I got a text from a Knicks source that said this is punted.
That's amazing.
I think that's amazing. Well. I think the Knicks are trying to do something. So more reports. This is from a Pistons beat writer for the Detroit Free Press, Omari Sankofa. And he says that the Pistons are keeping Ivy, still working on the details for the trade, but it won't include Ivy, whatever it is. Oh. And Adrian Wojnarowski points out that this was a tremendous coup for the Detroit GM, Troy Weaver, to land two of his top targets in the draft, Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren, with the cost of only a future first-round pick.
The Hawks are taking AJ Griffin, by the way.
Yeah, Ryan.
I'm so fucking nervous. I'm nervous as shit. Because
you hope they trade the pick.
They're not going to trade the pick. I think they're just going to be like, how can we not take him here? He fits it. You pop him next to Trey. It's so easy to play next to him. It's just like, man, I am nervous about his injuries and any kind of upside. Although he's like 18 and a half. So I can't be mad. I cannot be mad at the value here. Can't be mad at all, but I'm a nervous wreck for the future.
I mean, I thought he was a pretty good secondary creator. He's like a really good finisher. I think he actually fits well on your squad. And if he can stay healthy, I think you might be a little bit happy.
Yeah, I hope so. I was saying the same stuff about Cam Reddish coming out of college when we took him. Like, yeah. I was not a Cam Reddish fan as a prospect, and I went up and down, and throughout his 3-year career in the little small tenure in Atlanta, and it ended up not working out. And like, I feel like I'll do the same thing with AJ, where I'll be very critical because of worries, but it's hard not to make this pick here. Even if other teams want him, right? You trade the pick, people probably want to trade up for AJ at this point. So.
Crazy. Well, guys, I'm going to leave, obviously, you guys to decipher the rest of this because at about the pick number 9, when you guys started filling me in on NBA Twitter, my head just started to spin. So I'm proud to, admit that, I try to limit my Peroni intake, until Friday, but I may have to break the trend tonight, and I'm going to see if I can find a good therapist.
Yeah, and enjoy a glass of wine while you're at it. Thank you for joining us. Thank you,
John.
I've never had a glass of wine.
Me neither, actually. I just feel like that's the thing you say for people to relax. Thank you, John, for joining us, and also, providing your insights on all the various prospects. You can follow Jon Rothstein at Jon Rothstein. That is Jon, not John. This is an important distinction. And thank you for joining us. We're gonna keep it rolling here on the stream. Me, Ryan, and Shantelle for a little bit longer. And whoo boy, we still have some names on the board. We have Wendell Moore, we have Ty Washington. Ryan Hammer's pretty pissed off about AJ Griffin being
I'm not pissed. I'm just like he was one of the guys that I was very bearish on coming into the draft as a top 10 and lottery pick, because a lot of people have him at 5, 6, 7 on their boards, and I have him at I think 14 or 15. So this is where I would have picked him. But I just didn't expect him to be here for Atlanta, so I was eyeing up other guys, and that's what makes me nervous. But here we go, man. They did the same thing last year. Jalen Johnson went to Duke. He fell on draft boards further than he should have went to Atlanta. They had to take him, and they're doing the same thing this year. And I can't be mad. I do like Jalen a lot, even though he played a lot in the G League and not a lot in the NBA this year. But it's I don't know. We'll see what Schlenk is up to. Travis Schlenk.
So we're at the 16th. But we're at the 17th pick, actually, and the pick is now in officially. Adam Silver has come out. Good to see that he's recovered from COVID, by the way, because he did get that during the NBA Finals. But AJ Griffin is going to the Atlanta Hawks.
He better shoot 48% from three like he was at Duke. He better be shooting the lights out.
AJ Griffin was shooting the lights out. Look, I mean, as somebody who has heard a lot about AJ Griffin for a while because he played at Stepinac here in New York. That's a little more upstate from where I'm at. It's like in the White Plains area, but one of the best players in the Catholic League and one of the best players in the country was a McDonald's All-American Jordan Brand Classic. He played them both. So, look, very good player. And I think to get him at 16, I think he's somebody where I'm like, why not if I feel like he fits? But still got some good names on the board. The Houston Rockets, last year, they got Jalen Green, and they got Alperen Sengun later on in the first round. And I like the Jalen Green pick. I really like Alperen Sengun for where they got him. And right now they're at 17. Shantelle, are we in? I mean, I don't think he's going to go here, but we're almost in Ty Washington range. And I think if I'm the Bulls, I'm like, because Caruso, Lonzo, they play off of him. And I don't think he'll be in a situation where it's like, okay, he needs to develop right away. Like they can take their time with him if that's the case. But also, if I'm another team, I'm kind of looking at it like, hey, can I trade up to 17, 18, 19 to try to get Ty maybe if I need a point guard?
I like him in Chicago. You also think about Lonzo Ball and all the injuries that he's had to deal with. But I actually think Ty Washington, since like obviously the Knicks aren't going to get him now, what if the Spurs went and got Ty, where he could develop and play alongside DeJounte Murray? Like that is a pairing, coming off the bench, being that second unit guy, because that's what I think Ty can be. Another guy that I'm really, really high on, I think he's going to go late in the first round, probably even in the second round, maybe Kennedy Chandler.
Yes.
Sleeping on the guy from Tennessee because of his size, but the dude's explosive. He's got mad confidence, controls the place, good shooter. His playmaking is good, and he's good defensively. Like he was averaging about like 2 steals a game. Kennedy Chandler is also going to be another sleeper in this draft where I think he can make a difference on a team like maybe a Milwaukee or the Grizzlies even. I know the Grizzlies have a ton of guards, but I really like Kennedy Chandler as well. So this is the part of the draft where things get real interesting.
Memphis is a good call because Tyus Jones is a free agent who I don't know if they'll be able to retain him. They're going to try, I'm sure. Tyus Jones, to me, arguably the best backup point guard in the NBA. We do have a pick, Houston Rockets, 17th overall, Tari Eason, LSU. And this is an interesting one. Houston, Woes with a follow-up. Houston has considered Eason the best defender in the draft, taken because he has a typo here. I'm going to say because of his ability to switch and play with aggression. But I do think this is one of the top defenders in the draft, Tari Eason, who's also versatile, who is one of those guys that's 6'8", who can guard multiple positions, which in the NBA you're looking for that, right, Ryan?
Yep. And 100%. And because of Jabari's shooting ability, you can play both of them on the floor at the same time. When you look at their roster, like they obviously are going for upside. They're in a long-term rebuild, but you obviously need guys like that at some point. You need defense. You need high-impact players, even if they're not going to have super high ceilings. I think Tari does have a high ceiling. He doesn't have like Kawhi Leonard high ceiling, but he reminds me a lot of DeAndre Hunter with better as an inside scorer and not as good as an outside scorer. But because of the defense and the size and versatility there, Tari's a beast. He was falling a little bit because of quote unquote game IQ concerns only in the last month. I think it's kind of BS, to be honest. I don't think he didn't deserve to have that. And clearly he didn't. This is probably where he was supposed to go. But when you look at the Rockets, like they get Jabari Smith, who some consider the number 1 prospect in the draft, but they get a top 3 forward. They get Tari Eason, one of the best, if not the best defenders in the class. And they're back up at 26 again, where they can get a guard and fill out a rotation very, very well. So
I think another thing to look out for is, excuse me, I think teams like Denver recently made a move where they got rid of JaMychal Green, I believe, to Oklahoma City, as a matter of fact, because they're trying to avoid, tax and things of that nature. They have a couple picks coming up here, 21 and 30. I think they're going to trade one or both of those because in the NBA, if you have a first round salary that is guaranteed in the second round, you could kind of get a little bit more creative with it. You can make it not fully guaranteed. You could sign the second round pick to a two-way contract. The Brooklyn Nets did this last year with Kessler Edwards and then sign him to a standard contract the last game of the season, despite picking him at the number 44 overall pick. So I think you're going to start to see some of the contenders or some of the teams wanting to avoid some tricky financial situations trading down. And that's going to be interesting to see who trades up. Denver, I'm looking at 21 and 30. I think one of those, if not both of those, they're going to move out of it. I think Miami, for sure, based on what I've heard, they're probably going to move off of 27 unless somebody they really like has fallen there. But I think they want to preserve all money possible because they're obviously looking to make some splash moves. Golden State has some guys to retain. They have the 28th overall pick. I think they're going to trade out of that. We'll see what Milwaukee does at 24. We'll see what Philly does at 23. Yeah. These are all teams that are trying to clear space. So I think we're going to start seeing a lot more just smaller moves going forward. And I think some of these teams will probably trade into the second round. And we won't be around for the second round, but there are some teams who will buy second round picks, just straight up purchase them for millions of dollars. That may be something we see. So
when the owners want to pay up, I think the Mavs are one of those teams that are trying to get like Trevor Keels and a couple different guys in the early second. But like it's crazy to me that it's basically just if the owners want to pay out of their pocket when we have things in place so that the owners' financial amount doesn't like really affect teams like that. But there we are. You want to be rich. You want your team to win. You have to just lay out the money. So
no one has reached for any of my sleepers yet. I did put out a list early on of like sleepers that I probably like more than consensus. And the only one that I thought could have been off the board by now is Nikola Jovic, who is still on the board. I like him a lot. I think we'll hear his name called soon. Kennedy Chandler's on that list. And then from there, it's mostly guys that we're probably going to hear in the second round, if at all, maybe two-way contracts or such. But John Montero, excuse me, it's pronounced John. He's Dominican. I should know that. John Montero, Justin Lewis out of Marquette, Ismail Kamagate, you heard me talk about him before. He might sneak into the first round. Julian Champagny from St. John's and from Brooklyn, near where I'm at, Bishop Loughlin. Hello. And Isaiah Brockington, who I very much like out of Iowa State. I think he's not going to get drafted, but I think he's going to be an interesting two-way for somebody. So that's where we're at right now. Update from Adrian Wojnarowski. Kemba Walker and the Detroit Pistons are expected to discuss a contract buyout that will allow him to become a free agent, sources tell ESPN. Walker landed with Detroit as part of the three-way trade with Charlotte and New York. That tells me that Kemba Walker kind of at the end of the line here, which sucks, but injuries do that, especially the smaller guards that are very dynamic. They could slow you down. That tells me that he is probably going to be on a veteran minimum somewhere, most likely
the Lakers.
Easy.
It's so easy.
He's going to LA. He's going to be on that Lakers squad.
Or Brooklyn if they stay together.
I don't want that for Kemba. I don't want that for Kemba.
Yeah, but what you rather him like not have a team to play on?
Go to the Clippers. Go to the other team in LA. You know what I mean?
He has to get offered a contract. I feel like they actually build their team much better than the Lakers have. Like injuries have just like absolutely screwed them over. But like they bring in guys like Nick Batum, and the Lakers don't bring in guys like they impact very well like that, and they end up like Terrence Mann and Nick Batum, guys like that surround stars really well. When the Lakers just throw in literally anybody.
And this also means that Detroit essentially traded Jeremy Grant. I think there are some other picks involved down the line, but traded
for
Kemba and Jalen Duren for right now. Like that's basically what it seems like to me. And Shantelle, I mean, the Kemba Walker experiment didn't work out, but look, this is one of my favorite players ever, especially in college, but also in the NBA. I just love his spirit, love what he can do, and was bummed out that Charlotte could never surround him with anyone better than like Nicholas Batum. But it seems to be toward the end here. And Al Jefferson too. Al Jefferson was really good when they were together for a couple of years. But Kemba Walker, I mean, what do we think here?
I mean, I think it's pretty easy. Like Ryan mentioned, he's going straight to the Lakers. He putting on that purple and gold, and he might have a chance to hopefully turn. I want to see Kemba turn things around. I also think sometimes Tom Thibodeau has a system where for some guys, it just might not be that system, the right system. We saw Kemba struggle a bit, but I think, you know what, he could be a good piece for the Lakers because the Lakers will take anybody, especially if they've been a perennial all-star. He fits the mold, the criteria. Like the Lakers have a criteria where it's like, have you been an all-star? Have you been a perennial all-star?
Fair point, yeah.
Are you a
know what I'm saying?
name? Are you a name?
Yeah, are you a big?
How many
did you-
Instagram followers do you have? Yeah.
Oh,
Are you
God.
clutch where if LeBron is gonna give up the last shot at the last second, can you hit it? He hit that big shot at UConn, so he fits the criteria of the Lakers. And you know what, they wanted him too. Remember there was all that talk at the deadline that the Lakers did want Kemba, so I think he's definitely going there. But I hope he's able to revive his career because I mean, Brian, if anyone has seen our stuff, we do agree on a lot of things. Kemba's one of my favorite players too.
Yeah.
And as a Knicks fan, I was devastated that it didn't work out for him in New York, just because I thought the Knicks made a good move on picking him up, but I guess not. So
4-time All-Star, national champion, potentially somebody who sneaks into the Basketball Hall of Fame as well. So I hope that I hope that he gets one more shot, and is really it just could stay healthy more than anything else, because he did have some moments this year when he was healthy, did have some big performances, but it's just hard to sustain right now with the injuries, and sometimes it just breaks that way for guys. And he's going to be entering year 12, so it is what it is. Chris Haynes reports that the Chicago Bulls are selecting Dalen Terry, number 18. Woo! Okay.
That's my dog right there.
The Chicago Bulls have an interesting team. And one of the trades that we're not going to hear about tonight, I think that a lot of the big trades we're going to have to wait on. But Rudy Gobert smoke is out there. And the Chicago Bulls have been linked to this. Centered around, I guess, Nikola Vucevic. I don't know if Patrick Williams is involved. They have to throw in some other stuff. If I'm Utah, I'm trying to stick them up, because if I'm going to trade Rudy Gobert, I want to get a lot back, obviously. But look, this is very interesting. And we have Dalen Terry, who I think can make the Bulls rotation, or at least challenge for it. Like, I don't know how soon he's going to play, but we saw with Ayo Dosunmu last year. He was a rookie that was drafted in the second round, and he played right away. So, Ryan, do you think he could have, they're not the same type of guy necessarily, but similar impact maybe as a rookie?
Yeah, I think they both bring like the energy spark off the bench is their game. And Dalen played with a lot of star power, like Matherin and Christian Koloko at Arizona, one of the nation's best teams. He is a very, very high IQ passer. He's a very good defender, and the energy he brings in the floor, like, it's crazy. He describes himself as a dog. Like, he is literally a dog. He's clapping in people's face all the time. Like, he's very likable and stuff like that. Affects his personality. He reminds me so much of Herb Jones. Like, if Herb Jones is this good at defense, and here's offense, it's probably like a little teetered the other way. I think Dalen's a better offensive player because of his passing, but a little worse on the defensive side. He's 6'7" with a 7'1" wingspan, and he's basically a point guard. Like, the things that he brings is very unique. And I think for a team like the Bulls, I said like the Hawks, the Cavs that want to make another playoff jump, he's perfect.
Us basketball nerds love Herb Jones.
Oh, he's the best.
Yeah. Just the best.
Absolutely love him. Harris commented, where is Jeremy Sohan's accent from? And also noted that Kylian Mbappe is at the NBA draft, which I think is helpful information.
Oh.
Shout out to Mbappe for being at the draft, repping a lot of dudes from France.
That is pretty cool.
Drafted,
yeah.
So I think that he's just repping. By the way, in terms of France, you're seeing some guys here who could potentially play on that 2024 Olympic team. I just want to say, Team USA, y'all better hope you get some guys come down the pike, because I saw that report about Joel Embiid trying to see if he could play for France because he has family out there and has French nationality. I don't want to see a Joel Embiid, Rudy Gobert front line with some of these guys who are going to be Ishmael Kamagate,
God,
Ousmane Dieng. Look, man,
Banchero's playing for Italy, he said today, by the way. Not that they're going to be that good, but
Team USA, you better hope DeAndre Ayton doesn't want to play for the Bahamas. Doesn't sound like he does. You better hope you can get DeAndre Ayton, because Team USA, other than Bam Adebayo and Jared Allen, you need some centers.
That's a good point, actually.
So that's just down the line. But right now we're at the 19th overall pick. I think you're going to start to see more trades. We're going to take this to about 5 or so more minutes. We're going to take you 2 hours flat. So we have a little bit more here. We're probably, 20th pick and then get out of here. But the Minnesota Timberwolves are on the clock. Wendell Moore is somebody I think they should consider here. We don't know if D'Angelo Russell's going to get traded, but last year they did have a big, one of their only playoff seasons in history. They made it to the playoffs 8 times with Kevin Garnett, once with Jimmy Butler, and one other time, which was last year in their entire history, just 10 playoff trips. So Wendell Moore, I think, is somebody who's interesting here. I think I heard Zach Lowe yesterday on a pod say that they've also checked in on Rudy Gobert, and the Karl Anthony Towns Rudy Gobert pairing is interesting to me. But they, Patrick Beverly sort of ignited their defense a little bit. Jared Vanderbilt, they found something there defensively. Anthony Edwards, who I still need to watch and hustle, but I hear is really good.
Very good, so good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
He is somebody who's going to start really he's going to all-star challenger, all NBA potentially very soon. I think Minnesota could be on the brink of something special. They just have to be very careful with how they manage this. So
they were inquiring about Capella, also Miles Turner, like a veteran center, so that Cat could be a little free, I think, which is interesting because I guess that would help them out. But you see a lot of those small ball modern lineups succeed very, very well, and I think Cat could definitely do that. But maybe they thought otherwise. I feel like they needed more defense and on the perimeter in the front court or their back court, excuse me, especially when they're trying to move off of D'Lo. So we'll see.
I wonder if that means so is the package they're trading back for some hypothetical center? Does it? I guess it has to involve Jared Vanderbilt as well.
It would have to,
not just D'Angelo Russell. So Ryan did a little ooh. That is an ooh.
Jake LaRavia, yeah.
Memphis is acquiring number 17 from Minnesota. So never mind everything I just said. Memphis is acquiring number 19. Did I say 17? I meant 19.
You're good,
19 from Minnesota. Wow. And planning to select Wake Forest's Jake LaRavia.
I like this.
And Jake
good
LaRavia,
shooter. Yeah. Attacks the basket really well. I love this. That's interesting. Yeah.
He does a lot. He did a lot for Wake Forest. Him and Alon just did everything for Wake Forest because there was no one else on Wake Forest. But he is a very good modern perimeter forward, like Shantelle said. He has a really underrated playmaking style to him. And because a lot of the weight was on their shoulders and he was the front court presence, he had to play stronger, be a good rebounder, shot blocker, defender. He's very, very well balanced and all around. And Memphis doesn't have a lot of guys like that on their team, especially with size. So,
and they're a team that are they going to package Steven Adams and Brandon Clark for something? What are they going to do with Dylan Brooks?
Right.
What are they going to do with Tyus Jones? There's some question marks there. They also had 2 first rounders, 22 and 29. So I'm curious to see if those are the picks that they use to try to move up and get 19 for somebody that they really like. But Memphis, speaking of teams on the brink of something special, who knows what I still think the Warriors win that series if John Morant is healthy, but it's obviously a better series. But who knows what they can do going forward. And the West is going to be loaded if they're going to be a reason why. Straight leaves a comment for us saying, when do y'all think Kai Soto will be drafted? Kai Soto, Ryan's making a face. I'm not sure if he's going to be drafted. His stock is taking a hit. But Kai Soto, for people who don't know, is from the Philippines. Really became a star on if you're following basketball on IG, on Slam and things of that nature. You started hearing about him from an international standpoint. We talked about Ousmane Dieng, who played in Australia earlier. He played with the Adelaide 36ers in Australia as well. Looked pretty good, but doesn't look like I thought I would be hearing more about him, and I'm not quite sure. Ryan, you made the face. Let's go to you here, and then Shantelle chime in.
Kai, as he should, because of where he's from and his story, has a very, very strong fan base, and that is incredible to see. It's awesome. Can they? I think maybe at times they get a little overpowering and stuff like that, and they have too high expectations on especially draft position. Yes,
Shantelle, we know this with Manny Pacquiao. Filipinos, they come through for their people. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to y'all. We do it too as Puerto Ricans. Trust me. We love the people who represent our culture.
As you should. And I get it. I think Jalen Green has Filipino descent too, right? I think he
does.
He
does. As is Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson as well. Yeah.
So they're starting to be on the rise. By the way, they did use 22 and 29 to move up to 19. So Minnesota has 22, 29, 40, 48, and 50.
They're
not picking all that.
There's no way they pick 5 players.
Yeah.
I mentioned teams that could buy second-round picks. Teams like that. You look at a Minnesota who they have all those picks. Let's try to buy one. If you're a Philadelphia, a Miami, a Brooklyn, or something like that.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Shantelle, thoughts on Kai Soto?
I don't think he gets drafted. I'm going to be real with you guys. There's a lot of guys on the board right now that are more skilled than Kai Soto. I think we've seen a lot of hype on him. Will his game be able to transition well into the NBA? That's my only concern with Kai. That's what I'm wondering. He could go undrafted and have a team pick him up or possibly play in the G League, but I don't think I don't know if we're going to see that, especially not tonight.
I would take a shot at him in the second round.
Second round?
Yeah, like late second round. If I didn't love what was there are some guys I like. I talked about them earlier, but I think I would take a shot at him just because, like, and I'm not the guy who, like, I understand talent wins, but to a point, you still need chemistry, you still need culture, depth, and all those different things. But I think he has enough talent, raw ability to where it's like, all right, late in the second round, I'll take a stab at this, especially if I'm a team like, if I'm somebody who's not trying to win now and I could actually play him and develop him and things of that nature. So if I'm in Cleveland, they want to win now to a point, but Cleveland, he's still like, if he's coming off their bench or if he's in the Canton, I don't even know if they still have the Canton Charge in the G League, but if he's one of those teams, if he's on one of those teams, that would make sense. I'm looking at, maybe in Orlando, they don't have a late second rounder, but they could obviously come back in. Indiana has the last pick in the draft as of right now. A team like that would make sense. I'm straight ads in the comments section. Do y'all think anyone from this draft could be the next MJ? If so, who? I will say no, not MJ. Unless the MJ stands for not Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson. You know what I mean? I can't even think of
Jalen Williams
right now.
Jalen Williams, if he was on the Hawks.
I don't think you're getting a Michael Jordan in this draft, but I do think you're going to get some good players for sure. So we're 2 hours in. We're another pick or so, and we'll be out of here. Thank you guys for rocking with us, for watching, commenting, sharing, liking, a bunch of retweets on Twitter, interacting. So that's great. We're going to be doing some more of these hopefully in the future. But yeah, right now we're at 20th pick, and confirmed that the Minnesota and Memphis trade is confirmed. Harris says, "Do you guys only cover basketball?" No. Well, Ryan does other stuff as well, but you'll obviously find a lot of his draft stuff and college basketball insights and NBA insights on his Twitter. Shantelle and I, we do basketball, but we also do a lot of boxing and MMA. So if you like sanctioned violence, we are there for you. I also do some baseball stuff. But Shantelle also does like soccer. So like we're kind of a little bit more all over the place.
For the World Cup, but we're gonna link. We're gonna have a World Cup stream, maybe a watch party or something.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
I love this question. And yes, so you can find us talking about on FanDuel and on our Twitters and stuff like that. Boxing, MMA, whatever the case may be. Patrick Taylor says, "Do you think Kofi Cockburn will be drafted?" And Kofi Cockburn is somebody that I interviewed in college. High school rather, because he went to Christ the King, not that far from me, with Jose Alvarado, same school, Musa Cisse, same school, Tyson Walker also, who's at Michigan State now. And Kofi Cockburn, I think he's somebody who is slept on. I would take him in the second round. I would take a shot at him. I think if you get him into the right system, he could come in 12, 15 minutes a night and contribute. I think people just look at centers and be like, I don't think a center's going to work. And I think he's one of the centers who could adapt and can work so long as he could defend. At the very least, I think he could defend, rebound, and finish around the basket. And I think that can get you a long career. If he could become an Ivica Zubac or something like that, then I think that would be great. So
Portland should look at him, actually. Like, I think when I was looking at Kofi, I was like, I hope Portland picks him up. Being from the West Coast, we get all the Portland games. So yeah, I think they need him too. Like, as they don't rebound really well, they don't defend really well. So it's a piece that they could definitely look at.
OKC could take him and set him free. Harris says Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk. Watch along. Listen, a FanDuel. If y'all want to do it, Shantelle and I, we're here. We're here. We want to do watch alongs for every fight. Okay, like or Joshua Usyk, Terrence Crawford, and Errol Spence. We want to go. All right, we want to go straight up. Like we could do the watch along. We want to be live there, also providing content, covering it. And there's Canelo Alvarez, Triple G. The third fight is going to be in September. We got some big fights coming out later this year. So yes, if y'all want it, like demand it, and we'll try to make those things happen because we want to do that for sure. I'm sure he says, do y'all think Chet Holmgren will be a bust due to his size and getting dominated in the paint by bigger men? I don't think he's going to get dominated because defense is actually one of his strengths. I actually think, Ryan, I'm going to toss this to you. I think he's kind of like Rudy Gobert with offense and with the ability to stretch the floor. I don't know if he's going to be that good defensively, although I think Rudy could be a little overrated defensively.
Yeah.
But I think Chet, I don't think Chet's going to be a bust. I just worry about his frame and his future availability. I think he needs to pack on 20, 30 pounds, and it's hard to do in the NBA when, damn it, you're running all the time. So it's going to take a few years.
Rudy Gobert with a better offensive game is an MVP. That's an MVP candidate. Which, to be fair, that's Chet's upside. It really is to win MVP because that's what it is. I don't think he's as elite of a defender as like a true rim protector as Rudy is yet. He is so good at using his length. One thing I say is, like, you think he's really small. If you think he got dominated against Jalen Duren against Memphis, you go back and watch that game. Every time he was up against him, he absorbs contact so well. He lets Jalen Duren into him and uses his length over him. He's really smart, and he has a little bit of toughness to him that people don't really like to quantify, which is so important for him because otherwise he would get tossed around. But he doesn't take it easily. He's got a little bit of cockiness and swag to a good level in his game. So I'm not worried about him at all. I think his floor is very high, and people because of his length and how crazy and unique he is. So
yeah. So there we go with Chet Holmgren. We have a 20th pick. San Antonio's taking Malachi Branham, and that is an interesting. San Antonio, I like their draft so far.
They just sit there and wait for people to fall. Every year they do this. They just wait for guys to fall, and then they just turn them into good players. So
yeah,
I'm surprised Malachi fell that far, though.
Yeah,
just because you think about it, he fits the San Antonio system pretty well, right? They want him to defend. He's super versatile. He's got length, and he's a good shooter. So he's one of the. I think he might be the best natural scorer in the draft.
He's very efficient pure scorer.
Yeah. So before we get out of here, because we did make it to 20 picks and we are at 2 hours and we're coming up against it. Again, thank y'all for rocking with us. I'm gonna toss this to everybody here. Best players available in the draft, and or you could also go this direction. Do we have any bold predictions for what we're gonna see left over? In terms of later in the first round or whatever. I think we're going to start seeing more unsexy trades and just teams trading out of the first round and things of that nature. Nothing big. Shantelle?
Well, for players to watch out for, I've been talking about Ty the entire draft. I think he gets taken pretty soon, but I also like Patrick Baldwin from Milwaukee. A few years ago when he was coming out of high school, he was one of the top recruits, dealt with some injuries, but I think he's a steal. He's a good shot blocker. He can really shoot the three. He's more of a project. He's really raw, and he has to get better defensively. But this is a guy that you can bring onto a team. He's a little bit raw, work on him. But the fact that he can shoot threes like that and he can block shots, Patrick Baldwin out of Milwaukee and Ty Washington for me. Also, I mentioned Kennedy Chandler. Those guys are the sleepers in the draft where I think they could definitely add to a team for sure.
Yeah, Ty, I agree on. Go ahead, Shantelle, you want to finish up?
Oh, yeah, and I think there's going to be unsexy trades. That's all. We're just going to see unsexy trades throughout the night.
I think we all agree on that. Yeah.
Christian Braun, by the way, number 21, 21st pick.
I love this. I swear I was one of the only people that I could find that is high on him, and I said he's going to be in the top 25. He's definitely a first rounder. I love this pick. I also love guys like Marjon Beauchamp for them, but this is also a great pick. Yeah. They do a kind of similar role. He's a high impact player, Christian, but I was literally going to say Christian Braun, but he's one of them. Ty 100% at 22. Now I in my mock, I had Ty going at 19 to T-Wolves. Now that they're at 22 and 29, I love them taking him at 22. That actually now they're on the clock, the T-Wolves. But other guys like Jaden Hardy, EJ Liddell, Blake Wesley still on the board, really high upside wing. There's a lot of good players here. I think this class is very deep with first round talent. They might not be star potential and be stars down the road, but there's a lot of deep talent here in the first.
Yeah, and for me, somebody draft Nikola Jovic, as I just tweeted out.
Spurs.
I'm a little surprised he's fallen this far. The Spurs have a shot at 25. I feel like they're going to get Nikola Jovic or Ismail Kamagate. Boy, if he falls to Miami at 27, I think Miami's for sure going to trade out of the first round, but I keep that pick if Nikola Jovic fell into my hands. And he's one of these guys that's at the draft is sitting around. I think he's going to be really good. So Nikola Jovic for me. So we'll wrap it up here. Any final thoughts other than what we just said before we get out of here?
I hope AJ Griffin shoots 80% from three next year. 80%.
Shantelle, parting shot for your Knicks, perhaps.
The Knicks are gearing up to do some. They have picks now. So I think some moves are going to be made. I do think that they try to go for Mitchell.
Yes.
I definitely think they try making that move, and I'm going to be honest, like you mentioned Kyrie early on. I think Kyrie and KD are just trying to play hardball right now.
Okay.
Like
I thought you were gonna
you know
talk.
what I mean?
Don't talk yourself
no.
into that experience. It's just
No, I'm not. No, I'm good
I
on them
know
making
the
a big
handles
move,
are tantalizing, and everyone pure hoops, and he's he has a great mid-range game and can create and has maybe the best handles ever, but all the other stuff matters too. So yeah, that won't be my partner shot. I'm just gonna say one, somebody draft Nikola Jovic, and two, look, if y'all want some boxing and MMA watch-alongs, like we'll try to make that happen, obviously. So thank you to Shantelle, thank you to Ryan Hammer. Follow them both. You see their ads right there. And thank you to Jon Rothstein, who was with us earlier. Enjoy the rest of the draft and don't get too overly caught up on your phone. And hopefully you guys are winning money on your bets tonight. So as always, bet with your chest, bet responsibly, and thank you for watching. We'll see you again on another stream at another time. Peace.
Oy, oy. What is going on?